Welcome back to coverage of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series and round number 9 for the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. We apologize for some of the technical difficulties to start this race. Should be on a more coastal route now as the 34 of Lance Hill took the lead on the most recent restart from who was dominating the race to start, Brian M. Smith. We've had a caution. We just had 2 cautions to start this race, but just got on a restart a couple of laps ago, and already Francisco, some interesting moves at the front of this field, but arguably it has to be between the top 2.
Yeah, Lance Hill on that most recent caution decided to stay out, and he was the only one who stayed out, so he's on an alternate strategy right now. He's still holding the lead at the moment, so it is working out for him, but I can already tell that Brian M. Smith is definitely being very patient with him, does not intend on using up his tires right now. You see him a little bit up the racetrack trying to see if he can run somewhere else that isn't directly behind your leader, but Brian M. Smith, very patient, knows that he has the tires on his side.
Right on board there with the 69 of Michael Willard. We saw him being in Bang at Myrtle Beach just last week. A lot of fun there, and a new paint scheme tonight. The Hot Wheels color shining right here under the lights at Homestead Miami Speedway, and already up to a good run in third. You can see Jake Rell, Colin Forrester, 2 of the other new drivers to join here for the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series tonight. They're running 4th and 5th, and it's sort of a slow breakaway here between these guys up at the top 5. Cody Kinsey, who's kind of manning this route from 6 on back. He's in a fight currently with the 3 machine of Logan Joyner. Currently occupies 7th, and a driver right in front of them is not for position. But everybody else behind them is looking forward as Kinsey goes into the outside wall. He's going to keep it up there. He's going to be able to keep himself steady. No one's going to get into him. Caution will wave, and we will stay green.
And that's the tough part of running the outside here, especially with these ARCA cars. They're like glue when they get into the wall at any racetrack. Once you get them on, they just don't want to come off, and it's going to be very difficult. As we see a move here for the lead, Brian M. Smith goes to the inside of Lance Hill. He's finally done waiting. He's going to take the position, go to the preferred line, and that is going to be the top position. A little bit of a slider, but not necessary as he is way out in front of this 34, and now we'll begin to try and set sail. Michael Woolley has lost the position to Jake Rowe. We see Jake Rowe moved his way up to 3rd, so he may be challenging now for 2nd in a handful of laps.
And Brian M. Smith had taken the lead on the opening lap of this race before we got that yellow off turn 2 with the 55 of Joe Sanchez. Was dominating up until the 2nd yellow. He got passed by the 34, and back on the route to another race win. You see the 34 kind of falling off a little bit. Royal going to dive it deep into the inside of turn 1. He's not going to get the position, though, and the yellow will break up what was almost a semi-long green flag run. This time it's A.J. Green, driver of the 48, in trouble. Seems as though he might have had an issue off turn 4.
We saw him have an issue on the last restart, Kenneth. He got into the wall on the very restart. He got loose, and similar to Joe Sanchez, except he was able to catch that car and just took it to the wall. What looks like off turn 4 is just another case of getting loose. The car got very sideways, tries to lock it down, but it spins on him, and that being sideways on the racetrack is what iRacing constituted as a caution. So AJ Green unable to keep the car under control this time when he gets loose, and that's what's going to bring out our 3rd yellow of the race.
You see it right there, gets sideways, locks up the brakes, and luckily enough did not have any hits to the inside wall, and nobody else got into him, so the 48 of Green will be able to continue without any sort of harm on his 48 Chevrolet machine, so he'll keep on going. The only problem is that he's going to have to really pick up on track position. He's going to lose all of that on this yellow, and we'll see if he comes down pit road for some extra tire sets, because a half spin like that, locking up the brakes, surely does not do well on the Goodyear Eagles that lie underneath this race car. Speaking of pit road, again, leaders are going to take the chance to pit road. This is an interesting call here, Francisco, because while we were dealing with technical difficulties, we missed the fact that Lance Hill had stayed out on the last stop to pit road. He was on semi-old tires. Everybody else went down, but this time he's going to join the leaders down pit road, and it seems as though even though we don't get necessarily long runs here at Homestead tonight, these guys are obviously willing to take stops whenever they can.
Well, they do have unlimited tire sets, so that's definitely one of the reasons why they're doing so, but not to mention the fact that long runs can happen here at any time. You don't want to get caught out on old tires going into a long run. It looks like Forrester had a pretty good exit. He might gain some spots here, but the race off pit road it looks like to Brian M. Smith for the top position, and relatively no gains amongst the top 5. They're able to hold steady, but we'll see. I think this is going to be the trend for most of the night. If you get anywhere close to a 10-lap run, the best option is going to be come down pit road and take tires. That's very Homestead-like.
And this track is known for eating up the tires rather quickly. We talk about very rough surfaces like Atlanta. Talk about tracks like Chicagoland, very bumpy, very rough on the tires. This track is not bumpy because it's not as old as the other two venues, and it's a lot smoother end over end, but it does chew up your tires significantly, much like in Atlanta, much like a Chicagoland. And I think you make a good point. You guys are going to probably need tires. The drivers are at least going to need tires at every chance they can get. And because they can take advantage of unlimited tire sets, they're going to just continue to go down pit road, and not get caught on the deep end here from Homestead. Already the lights have flickered on, so we are zooming directly into the nighttime here at this track. And Francisco, it's a very interesting transition in real life and of course in the sim, because usually in real life you would have the sun directly facing you as you're coming out of turn 4. It's a visibility issue. It sort of happens here on iRacing here from Homestead with the way the sun sets at this track, but also the fact that the track can get cooler and it just kind of opened things up. But when you have the sun beaming down the racetrack, sure, some drivers are going to look for the outside, but mostly here at the nighttime, you're going to have that extended grip levels, which means probability of higher lines is probably going to continue to get higher as you move forward into tonight's event.
Yeah, I haven't driven a car here before, but I do know from sitting on those grandstands how tough that sun could be, because you're exposed at least a 180 to a 200 degree angle, but with the way the front stretch is angled here at Homestead, to the sun is going to be in your face, just like it is on the drivers. It's going to be in your face until it goes behind that turn 1 grandstands, and that's why I usually take my pair of sunglasses. These guys don't have that luxury of having the sunglasses, but they're also in the sim. They don't have to worry too much about that, and with the lights being on, the sun basically being below the horizon, it's just these LED lights that light up this racetrack for the nighttime conditions, and they're going to have a lot of grip in this car, a lot of horsepower being turned with the lower temperatures. So we're going to see what's able to be made of this. Sometimes people do better in the daytime, sometimes people do better in the nighttime. Usually a hot and slick racetrack plays into one driver's hands, while a cool, faster, grippier track plays into another driver's hands. Maybe sometimes there's drivers that are good at both. We'll have to see who's able to rise to the occasion. Unfortunately, for our sake, for the viewing standpoint, we won't have such a aggressive transition as we usually see in real life, where they start with the sun very much out on the racetrack and end around this sort of time of day.
We just had trouble right now, Francisco, on the racetrack.
Whoa.
Under pacing. That's the 71 of Curtis Kelly. Saw his yellow machine, the Camel machine, go around on the back straightaway. Not sure whether he got turned while they were 1 to green. He's got a little bit of damage, not too much on the Camel Ford Fusion. You see a little bit of crinkle there on the rear end, but had some trouble on the back straightaway. So we're going to continue under the yellow flag. We'll try and see exactly what happened here.
We'll try and get a look. I'm having trouble looking at it. Several cars seem to have blinked there, but we'll see. He's trying to warm up wow! He's trying to warm up the tires. You see everyone was swerving, and right here, just too aggressive on the throttle, and just the back end steps out, and right in front of Charlie Harcum, and dangerously back across the track, I might add, but nobody else involved. But unfortunate circumstance here for Harcum. You see just nowhere to go. He is not expecting a race car to wreck coming to the green flag on the back straightaway of the pace laps.
It's an interesting situation as Kelly falls all the way back. Same deal for Charlie Harcum. You see Harcum there pretty much limping right now. I believe this is exit of turn 2 right here. So he just went down pit road this time by. Kelly did not decide to, but Kelly was just trying to follow in the footsteps of Colin Forster. Forster was doing the same thing, swerving to warm up the tires, and Kelly just makes a small mistake and goes all the way to the outside wall. Very rare circumstance here from Homestead, but nonetheless.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, I've never seen that either, but we're going to go back green flag racing. We did extend it by 1 lap, but race officials have decided we're back clear. Everybody's doubled up. We're ready for another restart here from Homestead, Miami. It's the 78 of Ryan M. Smith, the 34 of Lance Hill. They're going to reach back to the gas pedal, and as of lap 27, under a rare extension of the yellow flag, we're back under green.
Rowe with a solid enough restart to get himself into the second position, and hopefully everyone is careful through 1 and 2. The race car is very slick at this point. It always will be on these new tires. You see a couple guys getting loose, chasing the rear end of the car. That's very normal. As these tires begin to warm up, get some pressures and temperature into them, that should become less of a problem. But Brian Smith, good lead going into turn 3. It looks like Forrester trying to dive it down the inside of his teammate. Hill has to back it off as he slides up the racetrack. Speaking of sliding, there you see a big slide by Forrester in the 99, and everybody behind is going to have a big run. And look at this aggressive move going into turn 1.
That's Joyner right there in the 3 car running for 7, trying to almost make it 3 wide underneath the 34 of Hill and the 69 of Willie. He's going to maintain back to turn 1. He's going to get to the inside of the 34 as the car goes hard into the outside wall. That's the 93 of Kinsey, and the caution surely going to come out for this one. Indeed it does. Yellow flag waves at lap 28, and it was a slam to the outside safer barrier for the 93 of Kinsey. That car is torn up.
Ken MacArthur does not have a hood on his race car. It's actually just in the way of his windshield. He cannot see where he's going.
He's also damaged as well, so he got caught up in this mess as well. We saw the impact there.
Look at that.
And this looks at shades of Denny Hamlin a couple years back. Hood extended all the way out, covering the windshield. I'm not sure how he's driving this thing right now, but Kinsey ultimately getting the worst end of it, and he's already made himself pretty much back to pit road. You see him right there limping to the pit road speed limit. Surely, I believe he does have the faster pair available, so this race is not over, but Kinsey with a hard hit. It's not exactly what you want to see at the start of this race.
Yeah, the toe on that right front tire is definitely bent out of shape. That's going to have to be a faster pair, and definitely Ken MacArthur's going to have to need one for that hood flapping around. Definitely, he was most likely looking out of that driver's side mirror trying to keep it straight. And there we see Kinsey. Oh my God, that's a big incident off turn 2. It looks like Kinsey riding this outside line on the seam just gets very loose, tries to stay off Murray, corrects it into the wall. MacArthur nowhere to go and pops that 93 into the air and on its side.
And a big impact, very dramatic here off turn 2. And similar to what we saw pretty much in almost every other incident here tonight, Francisco, even though it's kind of been variable in terms of the damage we was run on board with MacArthur. It's a hard hit right there, and he can't see anything, but we're seeing a lot of drivers get loose in the middle of the seams, especially when they transition up the track. For the driver of the 93, it's the exact case, just trying to make sure he can run that top side, run right onto that line. See right there, that transition in the banking, that seam off turn 2 catches him off guard. He almost about saves it before overcorrecting into the outside wall, and I'm not sure how to describe the hit that was at the 97.
Yeah, you have to also mention the fact, Kenneth, that this is the first time this series goes to Homestead, so maybe also a lack of experience perhaps at this racetrack, but with this being a track that's usually on the NIS schedules, the fixed schedules, and has been on iRacing for a long time, and I've seen a lot of hosted sessions up at this racetrack, you'd think that maybe they have some experience at this racetrack to maybe know that the seams are very loose, that they usually are very loose like that, and you have to sort of play around with the throttle to get the maximum grip while also carrying as much speed as you can. It is not exactly easy, but we're seeing it catch a lot of guys out right now.
It definitely is, and you make a good point there. This is really the first time these drivers have visited this track here in South Florida, so guys are getting pretty much acclimated to not only the conditions here on this track, but the way this track behaves with these sort of cars. But you can take some notes off of many different tracks, Pocono being one of them, some of the other 1.5 milers, some of the other tracks that we've driven where you try to put in the throttle, the car will snap out on you. It's not necessarily a new trend happening at this track, but it's just the way that it happens. The placement of the car, so crucial in the way the car either snaps or pushes tight into the outside wall. And we're seeing that happen a lot here from Virtual Homestead, and that's something I think, Francisco, you can testify as a sim racing driver, that you've known what it's like to run all the way to the inside. You've known what it's like to run on that seam at the bottom. You know what it's like to run the seam on the top, and how the transition can kind of bite the race car and create a very uncomfortable situation, I would say, behind the wheel, especially when you're exiting the very wide corners and you're trying to put as much throttle in.
I've just about tried every single line there is to try at this racetrack, and if you're going between different lines in the corner, it upsets the race car. If you're going from the bottom of the track and you're sliding up and you go into this outside seam right here where you see on board with Jake Correll, that seam right there where the pace car is at, if you're in the corner and the car's sliding up and you get to that, it's going to make the car very loose, but you have to be prepared for that. You have to adjust your throttle and your steering inputs based on it. You see right here, he's on it. If you're about here with the race car at racing speeds, it's going to be very loose. It's going to be very loose with your right sides on it. It's a little bit more comfortable when the left sides are on it. It can still get loose, but it's nothing compared to if the right sides are on that part of the seam. And we're just going to have to see how these guys adjust, because that's the racing line. That's where you have to run here tonight.
And a lot of these guys, to be fair, they have tried to be as aggressive as possible. So that also could go into them trying to be aggressive for position and trying to step over the boundaries that are here at Homestead, and maybe kind of not catching the effects that can happen that can really set these cars off and ultimately create damage, create DNFs, create the ends of races, and probably create the issue where you would have to burn your fast pair so early on in tonight's event. It'll be Brian M. Smith, Jake Royale that'll line up your first row. Gonna go back green here on lap 33 of 120. Still a long way to go in this affair from virtual South Florida. So the front row gonna make their way back to the front straightaway. It's again another solid launch out of Brian M. Smith. We're back under green. Jake Royale gonna try the dive into turn one.
And very close to the front bumper of the 26 of Jacob Smith goes Jake Royale to try and cover that second position, and it looks like Royale trying to see if he can do the runs. He's been as quick as in these short runs. He wants to try and see if he can take advantage of the proximity and see if he can get in front of that one, or maybe try and see if he can disturb the air over him. But right now you see in the dirty air of this one car a little bit of loose condition in this race car. That's going to be very typical of these short runs. Smith so far tonight, albeit with all these yellow flags, has seemed in control.
Seems to have control. They roll through 1 and 2 once again. Mostly everybody's single file, so what we were seeing out of the aggressivity from about the top 5 on back kind of simmered down just a little bit. Most of the candidates that are here are still running for these positions right now, although Michael Woolley seems to be a little impatient, wants to get away from the 99 of Colin Forster and put him in the rearview mirror, but just does not find the run off of any corner. Instead, gonna kind of reel him closer to the 3 as Royale has a problem off the corner. He's way slow on the inside, no damage, but loses the lead, or loses second place, loses a shot for the race lead, and now falls back through 7th. It's a hornet's nest at this part of the racetrack.
My hypothesis there, Kenneth, is that, like we were talking about, he probably got loose off the corner. See, right to the back bumper of this one car, sliding up the track right into that seam. He did exactly what we were talking about under the caution, Kenneth. He entered at the apron, slides up into the path of the seam, and that upset the race car, and he was not ready for it.
Right now, he continues to try and fight his way through the field. Watch this, almost 4 wide at the entrance of turn 1. That's Lance Hill that tried to make a dive on the bottom of the racetrack. That's Jacob Smith. Also lost some ground as he was once in 3rd on the restart, and Royale almost having a sideways condition. He is way loose in the back of that 19 machine, and around he goes into the 26 of Jacob Smith. Continues to spin across the track hard into the inside wall at the entrance of turn 3. Will we have a yellow? The answer seems to be no. Well, now turns to yes as the caution waves for the 4th time tonight.
You can see that happening. We had documented how loose he was from that restart, and once you put a little bit of extra overheating temperature into that tire, into that right rear tire, it's just going to stay there for a couple of laps, and it just worsens the conditions every time you just put that extra stress through it. And that's what happened there with Royale. Just that extra stress on that right rear tire, and off of 2, it actually just snapped on him, wasn't able to keep it under him, and made some hard contact. I'm not sure who he made contact with off of turn 2, but he definitely made some hard contact and ended at least someone else's neck. But look at this, almost at 4 wide going into turn 1.
Almost 4 wide. This is where it begins. So Royale, mind you, we saw him get loose off turn 4, lost 2nd place, got stuck back in traffic. Here's where it happens. Loses the car almost off the exit of turn 2, then gets a bit of contact there from Smith. That's ultimately what was the catalyst in this situation. It's not the fact that he couldn't save the race car, it's the fact that he got tapped. Right about here, the 26 of Smith, there you see the contact, and then the 29 just goes slammy back into the 26. Almost hits Tyler Murray on the way back down the racetrack. That's a square hit on the driver's side, left at the entrance of the road course there. 2nd end of the road course in 3 and 4. There you see the pace car coming out, and the caution was displayed. So Jake Royale might have his entire night soiled off of this one incident alone. And And meanwhile, multiple drivers down pit road for service, including race leader Brian M. Smith. A couple drivers going to stay out this time as well.
Colin Forster comes out second out of those that came down pit road, so he's starting to find himself closer to the front of the field. Pete Bruni and a couple other guys stayed out, including what is now going to be a race leader in Ken MacArthur, who had a hood in the middle of his windshield a couple of laps ago, and now he's leading this race. So a quick turnaround for him. He's trying a different strategy to see if he can get out front. Eric Schaefer moves his way into that second position. So we'll have to see how these guys sort this out with these used tires. We saw Lance Hill make a good use out of it, though. I think with a couple more cars staying out, I think everyone's going to try and be a little bit more aggressive with these tires. That they'll just have so much more grip. They'll be able to go wherever they aren't and likely build a pretty good run. But Kenneth, just to quickly touch on the cause of that incident, we saw it once again. Roel entered on a certain line, turned down the racetrack, crossed into that seam, and that's what caught him out.
Yeah, the seam continues to get drivers on the wrong foot here and creating a lot of incidents here from Homestead. And you mentioned it, the sort of difference here between the drivers that have stayed out, which is an accumulative of 3. Your top 3, MacArthur, Schaefer in the 22, and the 0 to Pete Bruni. They have stayed out. Brian M. Smith, the rest of the field behind him, and decided to pit this time by, although it is not a huge difference. If you look at it on paper, these guys pitted around 9 laps ago. The pretty much the driver that has the newest tires out of the top 3 who stayed out is the driver that cuts the middle of this sandwich between MacArthur and Bruni, the 22 of Eric Schaefer. He's about on 7-lap old tires. The other 2 are on 9, coming at 10 this time by under yellow. So these guys took the opportunity the last yellow around to come down pit road, decided to stay out this time, didn't see it fit. So there may be some equalization here, Francisco. I know it's a big difference here at Homestead, but if you're going off of restarts, if there continues to be sort of a trend of quick yellows after short runs, these guys may have themselves a chance to protect the position first, but then also have an opportunity to let the other guys behind them who are on the fresh tires now equalize later, and they could be theoretically on the same strategy moving forward.
Well, the equalization part is if they run at least 10, 15 laps from here until they have to pit again, and everyone has to come down pit road again. That's as close as equalization as you're going to get at any racetrack, really, but here especially, because those that just pitted will have a longing advantage until the end of the fuel run, unless they just completely use their tires up. But if they already have the same wear rate, if you will, then the person who pitted latest is going to have a continuous advantage throughout the entire run. But their hope right now, those in the top 3, is that we run 15 laps and everyone will come down pit road again. Their goal is not to stay in the top 3, but these guys were outside of the top 10, down in the 15th position almost. So if they're able to stay in the top 10, by the time everyone has to come down pit road again, that is a net gain for them.
Can be a net gain for them. We'll see how this strategy fares for the top 3, whether they get beat outright to turn 1 and 2, or whether they can hold it on for a while and at least save some of their equipment and save their chances at least. Again, we saw Ken MacArthur pretty much with his hood flapped in the air on his windshield just a couple of laps ago. He's got his fast grade, he's got a clean car, he's got an alternate strategy to push him into the right direction. Off turn 4, pace car makes its way down pit road. We're back under green at lap number 41. A solid jump from the 97 of MacArthur. It's a pretty much even start for the 22 of Eric Schaefer as well. A big dive on the outside of turn 1, and already here comes Brian M. Smith for the attack to turn 2.
That added grip of those better tires is going to give him a big advantage. You see right here, MacArthur trying to see if he can get behind Schaefer. Schaefer was able to take the lead on the outside, and there goes now the 78 to the inside in 3 and 4 to take over that spot. There we see Joyner working his way up through the field. He was able to get by Colin Forster, and now he's put himself second among those on these newer tires. As you see a hornet's nest back there for the rest of the top 5 and top 10.
Everybody squirms through turn number 1. There goes Logan Joyner to the inside. He's going to work his way clearly by Ken MacArthur with ease here. The rest of the field also going to do the same. You saw Pete Bruni get swallowed to the entrance of turn 1 as one car is into the outside wall. It's the 5 of Jovi Ray. I believe we're going to stay green. He's going to keep it tucked to the outside wall. No caution's going to fly. He's going to lose a bunch of spots with heavy damage, I believe, to the right side of that race car. Kyle Busch Machine not having a lot of fun early in this race, but we maintain under the green flag as Schaefer tries to continue to run away.
No luck for the KFB machine there, but right now Schaefer enjoying the lead while he can because he knows that new tires their way up towards him. Right now, still leading his first couple of laps that he's led this season, I believe. So he is trying to make some turnarounds to the season of his own. Brian M. Smith trying to see if he can capture a win in the ARCA series. I believe he has not been able to do so. Actually, no, he did at Bristol. So he has won, but now he's trying to see if he can win at the mile-and-a-half racetrack, and especially the outlier of the mile-and-a-half, which is Homestead, of course.
See right there, both of these guys absolutely ripping the lip, and there goes Smith. He's going to try and cut down, make an alternative diamond look out of turn 2. He's almost going to have enough momentum to tuck himself down low, but he's not going to do so just yet. That may allow the 3 of Logan Joyner to try and push himself into this fight. You see Smith continues to fight hard for the race lead. Schaefer's not giving up any mercy, and now here comes Joyner, able to fight. He's not going to take it 3 wide, but he's got a chance for net P1 if they can both get by the 22.
It looked like the 1 tried to slide it into turn 3, but he kind of gave up on it in the middle of the corner, realizing it probably wasn't going to happen. Stuck behind Eric Schaefer. They're both trying to run the top of this racetrack. That's allowing the bottom to stay open for this 3, but he's unable to take advantage of it. We'll see if the 78 decides to go to the inside. He doesn't. Goes to the middle, underneath the 22. Oh, big moment there for Schaefer. That's going to allow them to be 3 wide off the corner for the lead.
3 wide at the stripe for the race lead. Schaefer up top, Smith in the middle, Logan Joyner figuring out the bottom side. Into turn 1, a big dive by Smith. Into the outside wall goes Schaefer. Smith is going to slide at the track. And Logan Joyner to the race lead off turn 2.
You can tell he was in a good spot. He's actually have a wreck Eric Schaefer around in turns 1 and 2.
And a big crash behind them. You see multiple drivers already trying to scram their way away. It's the 22 of Schaefer who unfortunately struck the outside wall in 1 and 2. Had an issue there off the second corner, and now brings out again another yellow flag. We'll see exactly whether he had some help or whether this was just all on his own accord here. You'll see it again. 3 wide for the race lead. Can't say we'll miss this. Or can't say we won't miss this at least. There's the 22. Hits the outside wall. There's no contact between him and Smith, but ultimately it's the attempt to save the car back down to the inside. Goes for a quick 360 and maybe some more, and sits down around the grass near the pit exit cone. Luckily, nobody else gets involved in this, so should be no damage, or no significant damage rather, to the 22 of Schaefer or for anybody else on the racetrack. Take a listen right there. Shifted to the left. No saving there.
Yeah, I figured that's what happened there. You saw when he got on the wall, it wasn't coming off, and he was trying to force it off the wall, and you can see just how much left turn he put in. And once it came off the wall, it was too much for the race car to handle, hence why it spun.
And right there, turn it to the left, try and get it off. And one thing about these ARCA Menard Series cars, especially on iRacing, with the way they're twisted, they usually call them the Twisted Sisters. They call them usually that before, back when Gen 4 used to race in the NASCAR Cup Series, they would call these cars the Twisted Sisters because they would just have such a huge twist from the left side to the right side because they try to get as much side force as they can at each and every oval. But when you hit the outside wall on these cars in sim, it kind of feels like it sucks you directly there and it keeps you to the outside wall, so you have to make more of an input to the left in order to get it off of the wall and continue to go. As you watch off pit road, Brian M. Smith is going to lose 1 position on the racetrack. He's going to fall to 3rd. Joyner's going to keep the lead, but yet again, Francisco, it's another good stop from the 99 of Forster. His pit crew, his virtual pit crew at least, is having a good night.
He's been putting himself in position, and now he's in front of Brian M. Smith with no compadres on old tires this time. Well, scratch that, because we have Christopher Bishop and a couple other cars still out on the racetrack there right in front of these guys. I do believe they're on the lead lap, so they are trying to stay out for some track position. So, or forget what I was going to say, but he is ahead of Brian M. Smith nonetheless, which is crucial if his plan is to try and contend with the likes of Brian M. Smith here for this win tonight.
Yeah, Brian M. Smith, we saw him struggling just a little bit. Sort of the first time we saw him have some struggles here at Homestead to try and get around the 22 of Eric Schaefer. He finally got his way in 1 and 2 before that yellow came out, but it was at the expense of the race lead because he'd been fighting for about at least 5 laps or so for the top spot, with Schaefer running the outside wall in pretty much every corner. That's what allowed Joyner to kind of slip up, take advantage, go on the inside 3 wide, and ultimately, as the other 2 were drifting up the track, take the race lead. And off pit road, Joyner is going to have that advantage since Smith is just going to have to recuperate. It's not going to be too big of a gap, but at least considerable to where he was earlier in tonight's race. It is a lot more work than he would have to do if, let's say, he was starting at the front of this field. Again, we have another mix-up in strategy. We have two cars, at least 10 laps old on tires. That's the 42 of Bishop, the 46 of Charlie Harcum. They both are going to stay out on the racetrack. We'll see if they double guess and go down pit road, but as for right now, this call seems to be official. I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue, especially given the big difference here in tires versus the last time we had that mix.
Yeah, but just a couple of laps ran there, and we saw that it worked pretty decently for Schaefer. And if the runs are as short as they are, then it's just about trying to gain as much relative to where you were before the caution. It's not so much keeping the lead. Obviously, you want to, but if you're mired in the back, then your goal is not exactly just keep the lead, especially this early in the race. Just gain yourself some track position. That's what this kind of strategy is for. So Harcum and Bishop trying to gain back some of that track position they may have lost. And the best way to do that is stay out, hope that minimal cars get around you by the time the next yellow comes out, where everyone has to come down pit road. It seems like that's going to be the way these guys are going to try to make up track positions. Just without many green flag laps, passing is not exactly available. So they have to do stuff like this if they want to overtake and give themselves better track position at the disadvantage of having old tires.
See if this call ends up paying off for these two drivers up at the front row. We saw 2 out of the 3 drivers on the restart that were on old tires last time by. They got absolutely pummeled by the field. Pete Bruni and Ken MacArthur lost a heap amount of positions. It was Eric Schaefer, the outlier in that case, to keep position amongst the top 3. We'll see if these two that are occupying each lane of the racetrack on the restart, we'll see if they can hold on and maybe give the drivers on fresh tires something to work for, maybe to earn their money here at Homestead and Miami Speedway. Pace car again going to make the sharp left to pit road. It's the 42 and the 46. Another different look at the front row to lap 51 to the green flag.
A good start for Bishop, and look at this once again. Brian M. Smith wasting no time going 3 wide into turn 1. He goes to the inside of Joyner, trying to see if he can take that one, but no grip really as he goes all the way down to that white line. Harcum struggling on the outside lanes, already lost several positions. But Christopher Bishop right now in the lead, but that's not going to last for long. Here comes Joyner to the outside, Brian M. Smith to the outside as well. They'll work their way to the top 2. And here comes Colin Forrester, who has to check up for Bishop, as there goes his teammate AJ Green now to the inside. They're all getting boxed up behind Bishop.
It's a large crunch from 5th on back. You can see Forrester trying to make his way 3 wide. Green blocking all the way to the inside of turn 1. Forster's going to have the advantage. The top 2 have already spread themselves away. In Joyner and Smith, everybody else in the fresh tire power now considerably working that inside groove. Bishop falls all the way through the top 10, and it's all about Charlie Harcum, how he can continue the position through, although Forster's going to absolutely dive into turn 3 and aim to get this position away, and indeed he does for 3rd.
And Harcum, you see, continuing to lose those positions, but right now this 99 has gotten himself some pretty decent track position once again, especially after the restart. So we see right now Brian Smith hard charging on the outside. He's trying to see if he can get some track position on this number 3. The 3 is going to slide up on the exit of the corner. Brian Smith is there, and aggressive dive to the inside, trying to force the crossover. He is there. They'll be side by side in the 3.
2 Bass Pro Shops cars absolutely dueling here in South Florida. Smith is going to slide at the track. He's going to be able to hold strong for the race lead. Joyner almost about loses his race car off turn 4. Going to give Forrester the amount to go down low for P2, but it's again Brian M. Smith to the race lead. Fantastic racing for the top position here at Homestead, and it's not over yet.
And Forrester with a huge run in the middle of the corner. He's going to clear Brian M. Smith.
Bring Colin Forrester to the race lead. Maybe invite AJ Green for P4. Who knows? Smith again going to look to the bottom of the racetrack in turn 3. Not going to have any success in the middle of the corner. Forrester's going to be able to hold strong through the middle. And here comes Smith again for the inside as they run side by side for the race lead. One car hard into the inside wall. I believe that was Michael Woolley. Indeed he is, but we will stay green. Still the top 2 fighting for the top spot as Smith goes back to the inside.
Trouble there for the 99. He went way up the racetrack, and that cost him the lead as the yellow does come out. I believe the admins decided to throw the yellow there for Michael Woolley, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, that is precisely the case. The admins have thrown a caution for that incident with the 69 on the front straightaway.
We were having a fantastic run for the race lead, and we saw Michael Woolley far into the left shot get struck into the inside wall. I believe got loose off the exit of 4. And had a hard hit. Doesn't seem to be too much of damage here for the 69, but ultimately was one that pretty much cost him at this point of the race. Trying to see exactly what happened here off turn 4, and indeed right there, got loose, similar to what we saw with AJ Green, but Francisco in this case, he's low on the racetrack, and the consequences a lot more severe.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of what we've been seeing really all night. Just a lot of guys are having trouble off these corners, especially when they're trying to stay low like that. They're probably trying to be very aggressive on the throttle. They think they can be full throttle at that point in the corner. But the thing about Homestead is that you can't really get full throttle like that here. You really can't. It doesn't matter if you're in the ARCA car, the Xfinity car, or even the Cup car. You can't really get full throttle until you're going straight. It's very difficult to do so, and if it also uses up your tires a little bit. So it's a double-edged sword. It's very hard to control. You can get speed out of it, but part of the consequences is either a lot more tire usage, or as in the 69's case, a damaged car after a spin to the inside wall.
And MacArthur stays out. A couple of drivers staying out here for damage, but meanwhile, leaders again going to strike down pit road, and this may have helped the case for the 46 of Charlie Harcum. We saw him stay out on old tires, but he indeed got the advantage for a short run yellow and was able to fall back at least through the top 5, was able to hold strong in the first couple laps, and now Harcum's going to have the advantage to keep position, if not gain a little bit of some. He's going to stay in 5th as the leaders will come out of pit road, so for Harcum, this may have been a good call almost at the halfway mark, but it's Colin Forster again, solid pit stop. He's going to stay in the race lead.
That 99 pit crew has been on it. He's been able to consistently beat that number 1 off of pit road. We'll have to see if that continues through the rest of the night, Kenneth. So far, it's been true. But if he can keep that up, then a late race caution could spell trouble for Brian M. Smith, because it could mean he won't be the control car for a late restart. But neither of them are going to be the control car for this restart, because Ken MacArthur and Tyler Murray have stayed out for this one. I heard, and I will quote Ken MacArthur just before the pit road opened for everybody. He decided to say, let's go, and we see what let's go meant.
Well, let's go is staying out in the race lead with Tyler Murray to help these two drivers now crossing the line for lap 10 on their stints, although we'll probably not count this as significant tire wear because they're not up to speed. They're just rolling behind the iRacing pace car right now, the iRacing pace Mustang, as we'll call it here. Not the sedan tonight from Homestead, but these two, again, going to take the call to stay out, maybe hope for a quick yellow, hope for the opportunity to gain some track position and keep themselves near the front of the field as a result. They've been kind of flip-floppy through this field. MacArthur has gone through some roller coaster rides up to the field. We saw him stay out earlier tonight. Did not go his way, fell all the way back to the field. Like we mentioned, as he stayed out with Eric Schaefer in the 22. We also saw another driver, I believe it was Harcum, that also stayed out with him. But one of the drivers that stayed out with him, and MacArthur had fallen back deep within the top 10. So this is going to be a second chance effort, maybe a second time's the charm here to stay out, and we'll go for one more lap. So we'll see exactly what happens, Francisco, and I think we're seeing a trend already here. We haven't necessarily stabilized ourselves into a long enough run to maybe see who's got the best conservation efforts here at this track. So if you're a driver right now, you're seeing the trends of short yellows, do you trust in this trend staying up for the rest of the race, or do you still hold out hope that there probably could be a long run from maybe here on out to the other second half of the race?
At this point, being halfway into the race, I would likely believe that it can persist. But there is still that chance. Because of the racetrack we are at, there's still that chance for a long run. And it doesn't have to be a fuel run. It just has to be longer than what we've had. It could be 20, 25 laps maybe. That could be the long run that we're looking for. Because 25 laps here doesn't sound like a lot. But Homestead, the way it is and the way the tires wear, the fact that it is just that little bit longer in lap time than most Mauna has, it does actually take a lot longer to do those 25 laps, and it does feel like more of a long run than most Mauna has. So if we do run 25 laps or so, that is probably our long run of the night. But I will tell you, Kenneth, I am so hoping for something else for tomorrow night. I hope I'm not dealt this hand.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Tomorrow will be the coverage on Max Speed TV. Cup Series, you'll see our very own Francisco Bacalhau hit the track instead of hitting the booth. And maybe, hopefully, we'll see him get the win if he can hold on enough and compete with some of the best in four-wide racing competition. Knock on wood, as these two drivers up at the front will also knock themselves onto wood, trying to pray that they stay up at the front of the field. Ken MacArthur, Tyler Murray will catch the green flag at lap 60 of 120, already at about the halfway mark in tonight's race. Murray already falling through the cracks here for the rest of the field on the fresh tires. It's Colin Forrester trying to attack already, and he's got space to make it happen.
And look out for Brian Smith. He did get a pretty good run opportunity. He might be on the outside of Colin Forster right now. And as MacArthur goes to the outside, shooting through the middle is going to be Brian Smith. Forster slides up just a little bit. Here comes the 3 of Joyner and the 48 of AJ Green. They're going to be trying to attack. Forster takes the lead. MacArthur with a big run gets back on the outside. He holds his nose there, but right here the 99 should have the position taken away from the 97. As the 97 does to get into the wall, comes off of it just a little bit, almost makes contact with Brian Smith. But look at Joyner with a big run on the inside out of nowhere to take the lead away. Brian Smith now trying to take second away.
Everybody was running the middle up to the top lane, but it's Logan Joyner who's able to rock the very inside of the racetrack, hold calm, and he's back to the race lead. Here lap number 61 of 120. It continues to be side by side for second between Forster and Brian M. Smith. We saw Ken MacArthur hit the outside wall. He's fallen to 6th. Give 4th and 5th to Lance Hill and AJ Green. Continuous side by side. That's only allowing Logan Joyner to run away. Smith way loose off turn 2. What a save!
That is not easy to make right there, Kenneth. When the car's that far sideways, that off of turn 2 here, that is, I give props to Brian M. Smith on that. That is not a car that is supposed to be saved.
He's able to keep it also clean in front of Forster. Forster with good reaction time again. Loose another car as a leader. Logan Joyner's around the racetrack. Smith is around. Lance Hill is around. It's a mess between all the leaders.
And they're still wrecking.
As the caution comes out again, and this time involves the drivers we've been watching all race long, competing for the top spot to win this race. Smith, it's Joyner, it's Hill, Forster involved. And it's a large group from about everyone in the top 5. Probably got a piece of this as well.
I think Forster got away clean. He was on the outside there after the 3 went around. You see right here, the 3 loses it just as he gets to the cement, just overcorrects it. And the C's part right there for the 99. He's able to get away clean. But everyone else just in their own battle and just nowhere to go. You see the 3 overcorrects it, and then somehow manages to catch the car and overcorrects it back, but towards the inside wall. And this is probably the biggest wreck we've seen in the night, and we can see why, because it started with the race leader, and it just blocked the racetrack.
You see right there, a lot of these guys are trying to make last-second maneuvers. You see here the 34. He gets loose on his own. I was going to mention that as they were coming off turn 4 before this happened. Tried to swerve down low, realized that the 1 of Smith was kind of drifting back up to the outside, decided to revert it back to the left. Instead, pretty much had a meeting with the inside wall. Unfortunate for Logan Joyner here, though. Was running so well up in the lead, was sort of pulling away from the field. But again, Francisco, we continue to see mostly driver error on a lot of these restarts. It's not necessarily contact between 2 drivers that results in this. It's pretty much everybody that goes behind them, or pretty much everybody running in position, they're making mistakes on their own. As you're on board with Tyler Murray here, had a good view of this wreck up front.
And I have to wonder, Kenneth, is this a byproduct? Oh my God, as you see Harkham gets hit from behind, sends his rear bumper into the air. You have to wonder, is this a natural byproduct of the ARCA car at this racetrack? I've seen many series run here at this racetrack with the oval stock cars. I have not seen these many drivers have all the issues that we've seen tonight, especially repetitive. I've never seen anything quite like this. Whether it's the Xfinity car, the Cup car, the trucks, whatever stock car you can think of, except for these ARCA cars, I've not seen anything quite like this.
And these cars get considerably loose, and that's exactly what you're seeing right now. Drivers just trying to push it, and their cars ultimately go around. They get super loose. And even the best can't really save these race cars. Smith, who's notably one of the better drivers in the series, has gotten a bunch of wins to his resume in the Cup Series, got his first win in the ARCA series in his very first try. The last great Coliseum at Bristol a couple weeks back, even he's having a lot of trouble holding on to this race car. You can already see just how tough it is for not only him, but everybody else in the field. What's weird here, though, Francisco, is that usually you'd be accustomed to seeing drivers who are involved in the yellow dip all the way back in track position, but because the yellow was thrown at such an awkward time, that gives Brian M. Smith the lead with damage. It gives Lance Hill third. It gives Charlie Harcum fourth. It gives multiple drivers involved in the incident some position back based on scoring and timing, but I don't believe that after the pit stops happen and drivers get repair that it will stay the same, though.
And it doesn't look like they'll be coming in. I think it was open the last time by. Yeah, the pit road was open the previous time by, so no one decided to come down pit road of these front runners. So interesting choice here, and I believe that it is the 1 to green. So these guys, even with damage to their race car, have stayed out. Colin Forrester has a clean car. He's best suited for this.
So now the question stands, how does Brian M. Smith hold on with this damage? Does he get slowed dramatically because of the damage, or does he maintain the same with some of the front nose? You see the scrapes there up on the front of that Impala. Well, not sure if that will affect him too dramatically. Lance Hill doesn't have too much damage either, so I think these guys may have just dodged a bullet in this case. It's probably not going to be the same for Logan Joyner, who obviously you can't really see him in this field. He's stuck down either near the rear or down pit road as a result. I think he may be out of this race for good. But as for these guys up front, it's going to be the call to stay out with minimal damage. We could see if the dividends end up coming in for them after this investment here. Come off turn 4, so pace car lights are off. We are brushed away from the half marker of tonight's event. Lap 66 of 120 will cross the line for lap 67. It's again going to be Brian M. Smith in control with a big question mark over his roof as we come back to green. Colin Forster to his outside. An early jump here for Smith. Sign of things to come possibly as they go to turn 1.
For Smith, able to get away well. We see Lance Hill, aggressive move to the inside of his teammate to try and see if he can take over that second place position, and it looks like he will. Forrester with a run on the outside to keep the nose there, stay side by side, has the run off the corner. Lunslonger exited pit road as they come to the green flag. He loses a lap. Right now, Hill going to try to dive it down to see if he can take away that position, and he will, as the 99 has a little slip in the middle of the corner. And now that invites the 26 of, I believe that is Jacob Smith there to try and take over this podium position. But right now, Brian Smith taking off where he's left off, even with that little bit of damage. It's contact with the 99, hard into the wall.
99 of Forrester hard into the outside wall. It was directly off the contact from Smith. He's going to be able to save it. Minimal damage to the Carl Edwards Ford Fusion. Everybody, though, is going to slip by. There's Logan Joyner, who we talked about. He's not out of this race, although he is pretty much buried in track position. Meanwhile, it is pretty much shaken up from about third on back, and this allows Joe Sanchez, the driver involved in the lap 1 caution, to move into 4th.
He's been quiet all night, Kenneth, but he is starting to work his way up here, and he's a winner in this series, so I would look out for him. We saw him take wins at tracks that are very hard to drive, that are very low grip. Iowa, at Darlington. It would not surprise me if he's able to try and get a 3rd win here at another low grip racetrack such as Homestead.
There's a lot of drivers that are now recuperating themselves. You look even further back, Cody Kinsey, we saw him slam into the outside wall off turn 2. He's got a clean Impala SS, and he's now making the move for 5th. Also bring in Jake Roel, also had an incident earlier tonight, has worked his way back up to P6. So this, in turn, has allowed drivers to get second chances, if you will. They're right on board with Lance Hill, still in second, defending against Smith, trying to catch Smith in a Smith sandwich.
In the Smith sandwich right now, and he's trying to see if he can take the lead away from one of them. Right now, not too concerned with the one behind him for that position. He's not exactly right on his bumper. But you can see that line that 34 is running. He's diving it into the entry. That's not exactly what you want to do. That's going to put him vulnerable from an attack potentially going into turn 1 by this 26. He actually scrapes the wall there just a little bit. Nothing crazy there, but he is losing some forward momentum here. You see how much he's able to dive it into the corner. It's not exactly the line you want to run. I mean, he's running the correct line, but not too aggressively. You see the one ran up the racetrack, was able to gain a lot in the center, but he's going to lose out on this straightaway. But if he's able to keep running that seam as effective as he is, he can battle for this lead as the one now goes to the inside. 34 goes all the way to the apron. but that's not the line you want to run as he slides up once more.
Smith going to hold control of the lead as we cross the line for lap number 72 and possibly into a maybe green flag run here from Homestead, Miami. Let's turn up the sounds as we crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. Caution flag is out on the speedway once again as we were trying to get things ready for crank it up and give you some of the sights and sounds here from Homestead and these beautiful ARCA Menards cars. It's Curtis Kelly that goes around at the exit of turn 4. Had an issue earlier tonight to bring us under actually an extended yellow as he wrecked under pacing, but he's going to wreck under the green flag conditions and everybody's going to slow back down. We'll get things racked up. We'll probably get a restart within the next couple of laps. So try to see exactly what happened, but I believe in a similar situation to mostly everybody in this field.
Oh
it's
my.
a single car spin, and this time it's because of a slam off the exit of turn 4.
I think we should go back a little bit more. It looked like that started a lot earlier as he gets nailed there by the 45. Oh, it looks like a little help from Eric Schaefer off of turn 2. We did not see this. Schaefer up against the wall. The 71 slides up. 22 tries to make the crossover. It mistimes that. Oh, and he almost goes down the track and wrecks that 22. So right here, the 71 trying to recuperate. He's in the grass, slides up, gets into the wall, tries to turn off of the wall. And just as he does that, like we saw earlier in the race, he turned off that wall. It's going to be very, very loose. And 45 of Denson and nowhere to go. That was very dangerous right there by the 71. And then this.
Watch there on board. That's not a good sight for Jacob Denson, although I don't believe it's heavy enough contact to give him significant damage. That middle light machine, the driver who started in row number 1 to start this race, he's not going to have as much damage, but the 71 of Kelly, it's again going to be another cause of concern for the yellow flag. Meanwhile, drivers are back down pit road, so it remains short run yellow, and every time drivers do hit pit road on the lead lap. Curious to see that Brian M. Smith does not use the fast repair. He's going to get off of pit road quickly and to get it through the lead. It's a nice fight for second. Lance Hill and Jacob Smith going to the wire there for the exit. And P2, it's going to be Hill getting the advantage over Smith, Roel, and Sanchez, your top 5.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me he's not taking the fast repair. That kind of damage is not exactly worthy of one, but I'm pretty sure he is more concerned that if something similar happens and he gets more damage, he's worried about keeping the car in the race. Maybe he's preserving it for the closing laps of this race to try and see if he can deal with this now and try to pull that trigger later so that he can ensure to have a clean car for when it matters most.
Going to be conservative here. This time, nobody is going to stay out, so I don't believe we're going to have an affair where drivers on old tires are going to have to fend off against the drivers on the fresh rubber. You see the drivers up ahead. That's Lauenslager in the 13 and the 42 of Christopher Bishop. They are both the lap machines on the racetrack. Bishop 2 laps down, Lauenslager 1 lap down. As you mentioned, Francisco, early on one of the restarts, went off turn 2, off pit road. It was just merging back to traffic. They're going to get the 1 to green, and they're going to get a wave around here. They're not going to be Lucky Dog eligible, though. That should be for either Curtis Kelly or Nicholas Gowan, depending on where they are. You see Gowan in pit road, so I'm not sure he will get it. And most likely will go to the 71 of Kelly, who caused this incident. So I believe now, we talked about it a little bit earlier and asked you the fact that it was probably either going to persist for drivers with short runs, or maybe there was going to be some hope held out for a lot of drivers for long runs. And it probably continues here. You're probably getting into your mind that cautions are only going to continue to fly no matter what happens under green, and no matter where it comes from, whether it's the front or the rear. It's surprisingly a caution-filled affair at Homestead, which I don't think many drivers and I don't think anybody in the booth expected it either.
Yeah, I don't think we anticipated this, Kenneth. Homestead is kind of a track that usually blends itself to a lot of green flag racing. I've never been in a race that I could safely safe was filled with a lot of cautions, but that's truly been the case here tonight, which the last couple of weeks, if you really think about it, Kenneth, has been a complete turnaround from the first 4 or 5 or so races that we had at the start of the season, where the races were a lot of green flag action with barely any yellows, but now it's the 180-degree opposite situation. Now it's a lot of cautions. I mean, just last week at Myrtle Beach, we had a total of 27 cautions that led into a overtime finish there, and so far, I'm not sure how many we're at tonight, but it would be a good time for that summary.
And that gave Curtis Kelly the win, mind you, at Myrtle Beach with the chaos that happened.
Yeah.
And it's been an unfortunate one for Curtis Kelly here at Homestead, Miami. He came all the way to the tail end of the field due to that incident. You mentioned race summary. We'll go over it quickly before we get back to green flag racing here from Homestead, Miami. We'll bring you our race summary presented by Supermix. There you look. Good look at your race leader and a Martin Truex throwback. The one machine tracker roads of Brian M. Smith. His car continues to lead this race with 76 laps completed. As we cross the line, it will be 43 laps remaining in tonight's affair. We've had a total of 16 lead changes. You can count the cautions up to about 7 here from Homestead. It's been a long one here from this track. Hope to see at least some sort of green flag racing before this is all said and done. It's been great racing though at the front of the field, and for the inside lane, it's a great restart. Lance Hill not able to get the jump off to turn 1. It's Smith, Jacob Smith, and the 29er Royale able to make way for P3.
And Royal crucially didn't pass the 34 before the start finish line, so he was able to make the move in which he did. But look at this, Jacob Smith alongside Brian M. Smith. The Smiths will be side by side off the corner. Brian on the outside, Jake on the inside. Who's going to get the advantage going into 3 and 4?
It's a Viper looking for Venom out there. Dodge Viper right there, the 26
Brian's
of Smith going way loose, and 3 drivers about loose on the racetrack. Smith catches the car. The 34 of Hills does the same. They were about 3 wide. It's Royale getting the advantage out of all of this, and it's side by side between Smith and the 29er Royale.
Royale has the advantage. He's on the seam. He's getting a lot of grip right there on the racetrack right now. I don't think he'll be able to slide up, and he does. He's able to get in front of the 1 car. Now he's going to try to defend to the inside. You see, not allowing Brian M. Smith to try and get to his inside. So that is a race lead for Jake Royale after an incredible restart trying to avoid the 34 of Lance Hill. But Brian M. Smith given up quite yet. Even with that damage on his race car, he is still very fast, very competitive. He's not just going to give this to him.
Smith, especially with that loose condition off turn 4, doesn't mean he is out of this race just yet, and he's going to dive to the inside of Brian Smith.
Sideways.
Brian going way loose at the top of the racetrack. He is absolutely not having a good time behind the wheel of that race car right now, and it only continues to make things worse. There goes Hill, there goes Kinsey, there goes AJ Green to the inside, and it's Smith, Jacob Smith, in fact, the 26 that goes up to second as Brian M. Smith gets stuck in a hornet's nest.
A Smith for a Smith here. One's going to start falling back, but in his place comes another. Jake Royale leading Jacob Smith as we have Cody Kinsey now in the top 3. And think about the race Cody Kinsey's had, Kenneth, as actually Smith gets tapped from behind by Eric Schaefer, and an incredible save, but he gets hit again by the 46. He's going to slide and spin. Keeps it pointed in the right direction until he spins it, but the yellow flag was called beforehand. That leads me to believe there was another incident out here on the racetrack, Kenneth.
Probably another incident, but you can also make the case that he was already well sideways to give iRacing enough to throw the yellow flag out, to give Barney, the flagman, the command to bring the yellow flag back out on the racing surface. And for Smith, who had pretty much led the most laps here tonight up until this point, has now been caught up in some trouble. Some of the first times we see Smith in some trouble all night long. Take a look at the replay here. This is the entrance of 1 and 2. And you were riding on board with him, the nose camera, not the rear end camera, but it was contact from the side. It was Eric Schaefer that got into him. Smith able to save it, but it's second contact here with the 46 of Harcum that gets him well sideways, and right there trying to save it on the racetrack, and comes to a stop right at the exit of the hairpin at the Homestead road course. Goes sideways. I don't believe there was any other incidents. Actually,
oh yes, there was
with Schaefer, the 22. So along with Brian M. Smith in this situation, Aaron Schaefer also gets some of the worst ends of it. Gets contact with Brian and goes around off turn 2.
There was actually another incident apart from this, Kenneth. It involved Ken MacArthur and the 45 of Denson. They both had issues trying to avoid this incident just as they were approaching the spinning car, Brandon Smith, Ken MacArthur seems to have tried to take avoiding action and just gets right into the side. You see right here, he thinks the one's coming back up the track, and actually looks like the 45 came down a little bit into the 97 and put himself into the wall there.
See Denson there, the hard hit and the hard damage there on the side of his Chevrolet. You'll see it once again as he'll tag the outside wall here via the contact. He's running up top. Comes down the track right about here. They both merge together. Then a hard smack to the outside, similar to what we saw with Cody Kinsey earlier tonight. But for Denson, he's going to have that fast repair given to him. And you see him there exiting pit road. He's going to have that car all fixed up. For Roel, though, Jake Roel, Jacob Smith, Cody Kinsey, this is a blessing, in fact, here from Homestead, because they had some of their own struggles tonight. Jake Roel had an incident earlier in this race. Jacob Smith has had some troubles trying to work up through the field as well, although he's had a fast dodge all night long. And Cody Kinsey, we saw him hit the outside wall off turn 2 and create a caution of his own. Has burned at the fast pair earlier tonight, but he has done a great job keeping his car currently clean. He racks up the top 3. So it's a nice mix between these drivers who have had issues early, Francisco, and are now making their second chances. Definitely worth it.
Colin Forrester had a moment on pit road. He stayed there for an extensive amount of time. Only exited just a little bit ago, and now he's starting to catch up to the tail end of the field. So I'm not sure what may have happened there. I'm not sure if he had some sort of pit road penalty that he was trying to serve just now so that he can restart at the back. But that is something I did want to point out there, that the 99 has now lost all track position.
Interesting enough there. We'll talk about Forrester. We'll monitor him as he moves. He is 23rd on the track. There you see him rejoining. He's not going to lose a lap here, though, so it will be the last car currently situated on the lead lap. You'll give the 1 lap down marker to Craig Laudenslager, who's in 24th. Remarkably, not a lot of drivers are at least 1 lap down or more on the racetrack. We still have a good amount of drivers that still are on the lead lap and are still in this race, still have a shot definitely to win, have a shot to finish this one. It hasn't necessarily been a full contact enough to send drivers out of the race like we've seen, like the case of Myrtle Beach, or even in the case of the Cup Series, you could look at Martinsville from last season. But it's been a, so far, remarkable 27 cars to start this race, and we're about 23 in the lead lap still. I believe about 25 to 26 that are still on the track right now. So we are still very strong in numbers here from Homestead, as we'll take one more lap of yellow flag action before we go back green lap 86. It'll be Jake Roel choosing the outside this time, Francisco, against Jacob Smith. Do you think this is probably going to be the good call here if Roel can get a good push from Lance Hill?
Well, at the end of the day, the control car here is going to be that 19, and it's going to be very tough for the 26 of Smith to try and time when exactly that 19 goes. It's such a wide restart zone that we have, because once the pace car leaves the track, the leader is free to go between then and the green lights, which is the end of the restart zone that we actually have, you know, the official restart zone. So it's a very wide area, and it being very wide, you're just unsure if you're going to go all as early as you possibly can, or if they're just going to wait for the green lights. That antsiness and that not knowing of what they're going to do does give the leader a huge advantage, and him being on the outside is different. Usually the leader's on the inside at most tracks, so trying to time a restart on the outside when that car is a little bit more out of your regular viewing frame, that means you're going to have to press your button to look on your right side, and that could easily throw you off a little bit.
We'll see how this goes. Pace car going to make again the sharp left. So lap 86 will go, and it's a rather early start for Roel, but it's an even start on the inside from Jacob Smith. Roel's going to immediately block for third, going to make sure that Kinsey doesn't get any advantage to turn 1, but he's already lost the lead, and Jacob Smith goes to the front as we come off of turn 2.
You have to imagine he kind of spun the tires there. I mean, he had such a good initial go, and then all of a sudden, the 26 with a big run was able to take the lead and take it away rather quickly. Now we see Roel diving to the inside. Kinsey trying to dive to the inside of the 34. They're defending for the third spot. Roel able to slide up in front of the 26. He'll go back to the point.
Didn't matter at all whether that restart was a little slow or not. He's able to pick back the momentum, and now Ruel comes back to the point here from Homestead Miami Speedway. They continue to do for third. It's a nice run between Kinsey and the 34 of Lance Hill, and that could open the door for the drivers behind them, the 48 and the 69 of Michael Woolley. We haven't talked about Woolley since his incident earlier in this race off of turn 4 to the inside wall. He's got a repaired race car, and now he's back up to 6 as you watch Cody Kinsey get right on board. Good look at the top 2 leaders right now on the racetrack.
And the lights, as you can see, Kenneth, have been on all night, and it's fully dark. It is well and truly on with almost 30 laps to go. We still are probably going to have yellows, as we've seen for most of the night, but this is where you start positioning yourself for the end of the race.
This could very well be the home stretch. You were riding on board there as the 93 got way loose at the exit of turn 2, riding the top lane. That gave the advantage back to Lance Hill, who could try to slam the door here on Kinsey, maybe take away that 3rd position, that last podium spot. As you watch right now, sort of a group here between Joe Sanchez, AJ Green, Michael Woolley. The driver behind them, Charlie Harcum, and Logan Joyner. It was a nice move by AJ Green, the stock motorsports machine. The Jimmy Johnson car, shades of the 2006 championship, and move to the inside, a textbook move for P6.
Up to P6 for AJ Green. He's had a troubled night. He was able to get close to the front and was involved in that incident on the front straightaway, but he is trying to make a solid recovery. Right now you see a little bit further back a Bass Pro Shops machine. That is indeed Brian M. Smith trying to make up some ground. He's just inside the top 10 now. He's working with that person he was battling with earlier in the race, and Lucas Joyner, and right now he's actually going to make a move to the inside. I believe that's just for the 9th position right there. So that is another position for this one car. He is on slightly newer tires than most of these leaders that didn't really come down pit road this last caution, so he is trying to use them to his advantage.
And Brian Smith absolutely blowing by some of the competition right now. He pitted 7 laps ago. Meanwhile, everybody's on at least 15 to 16 lap old tires, so he's starting to help in the case of Smith. Although he's had a lot of moments where he's been loose and he's probably shredded the rear tires more than he'd like to here from this track. So we'll keep an eye on him as he gets to position. It's a nice fight behind him for 9th in Joyner and Charlie Harcum. Smith is going to use the outside to get away from Joe Sanchez. They've kind of accordioned up here for the 3rd on back. That's Michael Woolley and Lance Hill. We saw Hill take over 3rd. He's falling back to the field, so now he continues to lose ground on this effort as 2nd will be occupied by the 26 of Jacob Smith.
And the other Smith's now up to 7th, so Brian M. Smith continuing to slice his way up. Can't really count him out yet, because if this run does continue the way it is, he's going to gain back that track position he lost, and that could put him in contention late in this one.
See Smith working the high side. He's trying to find as much clean air as possible. He's going to get a big run as Woolley gets way loose off turn 2. He's going to be able to save the race car. Smith not going to have the run. Almost got it from the 48 of Green. But a blocking there from Green all the way to the inside. Surprisingly enough, as they're 3 wide for position. Green almost up the racetrack. This could be risky for Smith, and it gets riskier as they go up into the outside wall. And Brian Smith, after trying to catch to the field, is now going to have it all reset as Green and the 69 of Woolley made contact. But we will stay Green in the racetrack as well. Continues in the race lead.
And you can see that coming, Kenneth. One of the car lowest on the track was at the seam. The car highest was below the top seam. They were just closing in on one another. We'll see if we can get a second look on that, Kenneth. That was as we see, the right front tire is actually broken on that one car. He has to try and limp it back around to pit road. That's going to be very dangerous to have him out there on the track. But we see entering 3, there was a lot of aggressive things going on. We saw the 48 make an aggressive block right here, gets loose, slides up, makes contact with the 69, the 78, excuse me, an innocent bystander. As we see, the 48 also have his fair share incident later down on the front straight. Just gets loose, slides up, and them have not given each other that much room is what definitely led to the exaggerated contact as we saw.
Take another look at it here with Green, and the fact that the 48 really wasn't giving that much space to the 69. They were rather close. I think Michael Woolley was just trying to pinch Green here, but Green sides up the racetrack, and that little blip right there to try and save the car definitely got him into a worse situation as the caution waves on the racetrack. Now, I'm not sure exactly who it's by, whether it's for the driver of the 78 and Smith, and he's around, so I believe this might have been the yellow.
It seems like he pulled over off to the side of the track. And Brian M. Smith, yep, This is the incident that brought out the caution. This was an iRacing caution. This was not an admin caution, and Brian M. Smith has been removed from the race.
We saw him limping in turn 1 and 2, and I think the officials did not like the fact that Smith was just putting around. He wasn't really aiming to go
I think
to
it was
pit
this
road
right
for
here.
damage. It was right here. Stops.
It's on a tire smoke show.
Tries to go back in reverse. And I'm not sure whether he's trying to make the access road or trying to make the road course. Then gets into the grass and spins around. The officials call the yellow flag. And we slow the field once more at the hands of Jake Roel. So not exactly sure. Brian M. Smith probably not happy at all with the situation, but interesting one that'll probably change the course of this race for the next at least 30 or so laps, Francisco.
I think the main thing there is that the fact that it wasn't an admin caution, Kenneth. The iRacing detected something and it threw the caution out, and that's why the admins decided to remove the 78. His actions brought out a caution that was not warranted, as he was well off the racing surface. And obviously, when you couple that with the fact that he was putting on a smoke show there on the apron of the racetrack, and at one point did put it into reverse, that is not what you want a driver doing out there on the racetrack. So admins taking the safety of these drivers, of course, with the caution already being out, everyone's going to come down into pit road and try to take a reset here.
Everybody's going to take tires. There you see the perspective of the 29. He's going to get his service off pit road. We'll see who comes out first. It's been a close-knit battles off of pit lane all night long. It's not a good fight for first. It's a nice one for about third on back as Hill gets the advantage. It's a nice tight battle there. 3 wide for position behind them. It's Logan Joyner that gets fourth in front of Cody Kinsey, Michael Newbraw ahead of the pack that they were trying to fight off pit road, get 4 fresh tires and some fuel. And at this case, Francisco, I figure that with the yellows coming out, especially with this pivotal stop, these guys are seemingly going to be at least good all the way to the end. You can run about 40 to 45 laps here from Homestead. So I don't believe the cause of concern is going to be fuel. It's mostly going to be the tire sets and who ends up pitting, who gets the fresher rubber, and how they're able to cut through the field in the final laps if we end up in that situation.
Tires is most definitely going to be the limiting factor here, and it usually is anyway. So we'll just have to see who decides to pit, when they decide to pit, and what they're able to do with the tires when they decide to pull the trigger on that respective strategy. We've seen for the most part they have been coming down pit road almost every single time, so if they decide to do so, it won't exactly be a shock, and I believe for the most part they'll have a lot of the field come down with them.
See Jake Rowell, his machine. A little bit of focus there from the animated driver in the race lead as Rowell just continues to pace behind the iRacing official pace car. That's the 42 of Bishop that'll take the wave round this time by, and we should I say, get a restart with about either over 20 laps to go or right at the marker of 20 laps to go, which could make for a fantastic dash to the finish here from Homestead to Miami Speedway. We've had a rack of cautions to start. We've continued to have yellows throughout. It's been very interesting moments between either drivers near the rear of the field, drivers in a big pack with others, or in the case of this one, drivers who were heavy hitters in this one to take control of this race, to lead the event for multiple laps on end, and strikes pretty much everybody equally no matter where you are on the track, no matter how good your night has been. The track has not been nice, the cars have not been nice. The race certainly reflects just how tough it is to drive these cars, especially over the limit. We should get one to green, so light should be out on the pace car this time by. It'll be Jake Roel lining up your front row with Jacob Smith. These two drivers are going to work different positions here. Roel going to work the outside, Smith going to work the inside again. Lance Hill, Logan Joyner to follow your second row. Cody Kinsey and Jacob Denson to your row number 3. And files through Michael Newbraw, Joe Sanchez, Charlie Harcum, and Nicholas Gowan, your top 10.
It's going to be a crucial restart, Kenneth. We're going to have 21 laps to go here, but we can still have other cautions, but this is exactly where you want to make the ground up. There's no more waiting. There's no more postponing any sort of strategy. If there's anything you're going to do to try to get whatever result you're aiming for, this is the time to do it.
And we've seen attack mode out of the drivers that currently occupy the first 3 rows. No surprise that these guys have been as aggressive as possible to get their wins. Some of them looking for their first 4-wide Racing ARCA win. Some of them looking for a repetitive win, much like the case of Lance Hill, looking for a second after winning Pocono earlier this season. Look for drivers like Joe Sanchez looking for a second, but really, most of these guys are looking for their first in either 4-wide racing competition overall or the 4-wide racing ARCA series in its inaugural campaign. Green flag flies with about 20 laps to go here from the virtual Homestead of Miami Speedway. It's Jake Rell with a solid jump to turn 1. He's going to have the lead clearly by about half a second over Jacob Smith. They continue to fight for third. Lance Hill to the bottom of Logan Joyner.
To the inside, but unable to make it work. Hill's now going to be under attack for that fourth position. Right now, the 19 of Roel is well out in front of the 26 of Smith, trying to see if he can take his first win of the season in his return race.
Roel doing well all the way at the bottom of the racetrack, using that seam to continue to grow his gap. It's about 4 chains. Logan Joyner has cleared himself for third. Cody Kinsey has made his way up to fourth, and it's single file as everyone, I don't think, willing to risk any other lane from Homestead. Everybody rocking the inside. Definitely don't want to be in a situation as a wreck behind the end. As I believe it was Brandon T. Banks. Indeed it is, and a slam by Nicholas Gowan.
It was a big crash there in 1 and 2, Kenneth. I heard it immediately on the voice channel. Big wreck. You see, we'll have to get a good look at it. And it happened just behind the leaders. You see at the back end of the top 10, Gowan just gets turned there by the 46 and gets sent right into Michael Newbron. And then you see them piling up, just unable to avoid the crash here. The crash initially was 2 cars and a good bit of netcode there as well, but a lot of crashing that happened, trying to avoid it, braking.
Well, can we go an ARCA race without saying ARCA brakes at some point? You'll see the contact again. There's the 46 Harcum into the 31 of Gowan. There's no doubt there was contact here at the entrance of turn 1, different braking zones here. And then just slides up into the 56. Newbron has nowhere to go. The 88 tries to avoid here, but then slides into the 00 of Jesse Priest. So it's sort of like a domino effect. You see these guys get collected. Somebody tries to avoid, but ultimately they get hit. They fall. They bring others to fall with them. Got hit by the 8 of Tyler Murray. And then here's a secondary hit by Gowan. We thought he was trying to get away from this, but a slide by the 88 at the last second.
Yeah, it looked like there at the beginning of the incident, the 46 was pushing, I already forgot who it was, but he was pushing the troubled car in front of him and never really let off. You see it was Gowan, that's right. So going into the corner, you see he just gets on his bumper, but he doesn't exactly let off. He continues to go in there, following that car up the racetrack. So I'm not sure what that was about. Usually if there's a bump at the entrance of the corner, that's sometimes fine because of the different brake points, lift points, as you mentioned, but he continued to go up the racetrack and following that car up the track. That it's not exactly something that you'd be proud of if you're Nicholas Gowan.
Well, probably could have been the case that maybe Harcum was just trying to not lose as much momentum, or possibly that he was expecting Gowan to save the race car, because like we've seen tonight, there's been many a times where drivers have gotten loose either by contact or by themselves, and they've been able to save it, catch it with remarkable saves, even though the cars look like they're going to go around significantly. But maybe that was the case for Harcum. Just tapped into the 31, probably didn't feel good about it, maybe didn't react in time, or hoped that Gowan was going to save it. But ultimately, obviously, that was not the case, and resulted in about 6 cars getting damaged from that incident. As again, the leaders continue to get thrown off their pace, and I'm not going to say that this is thrown off guard for them. I think they've been used to this already, but if you continue to get disrupted rhythms here at a track that probably requires a good amount of rhythm to get right, especially with the way these cars get loose, it just continues to get tougher mentally for the drivers, especially in the top 3 that want to be aggressive for this win with 16 laps to go.
I just don't think it's in the DNA of anybody to go about a 1.5 mile racetrack and assume that there's going to be the amount of cautions we've had here tonight. Obviously not to the same extent that we had a week ago, but for a 1.5 mile standard, this has been a way above average from what we're used to seeing out of these type of tracks. And it's definitely limited what we can see on the racetrack, and what in the time that we have seen racing, Kenneth, it has been about as good as it can be for this racetrack. It has definitely been very good to watch, but it's unfortunately been riddled with a lot of driving behind the pace car. But right now, if we're able, for the end of this race, we are going to have at least try to have a battle for this race win. And if a good restart persists by the first two cars in the first row on whatever ends up being the last one, it could definitely spell an interesting battle for the finish.
We see Colin Forster has worked his way up to 11th. Francisco, you mentioned, he had an issue down pit road earlier, lost all the track position, so he's now moved up to the outside of the top 10. Kind of nice view of pretty much everybody doubling up in front of him. He's going to get to the inside here, I believe, on at least row number 6, and with Eric Schaefer to his outside. As we'll again rack them up, we'll get a restart with just outside of 15 laps to go from Homestead to Miami Speedway. It continues to be Jake Rowell at the front of this field, although we've seen significant strikes out of Jacob Smith for the race lead, for second, for third. Wherever it was, Smith was there, so he could definitely show his hand here near the end of this race. You still got guys like Logan Joyner and Lance Hill who have a shot at the win. Joe Sanchez, he's moved up a couple rows, so he's now up to row 3. Jacob Denson to his inside. These guys still got a chance to win. Rowell has seemingly been pulling away the last couple of restarts, been able to throw the field off their game, but like we've seen before, I think these drivers can take up any opportunity, take the approach, kind of know what the other guy is doing, and be equalized to them as they head for turn 1. Off turn 4, though, pace car will make its way back down pit road. The 29 and the 26 to a start. Smith fairly early off the gun. Is that going to be a penalty?
He did look like he went first, Kenneth. We'll have to see. He might be obliged to give the position back, as we see him doing just that right now. So he does give the position back to Jake Rowell. So there goes any talk of any penalties. He did give the position back. So it is fair game from here on out. He is in second now, trying to see if he can hold off the 34 of Hill, who's worked his way into the third position. But Jacob Smith now back into the front of the race, 15 laps to go.
See Joe Sanchez to the top 5. It's a good thing that Smith is not going to have
he
any
has a moment
penalties
on
here.
4.
As Rowell gets way loose off turn 4. Look at the blocking for second. Lance Hill, though, able to slide the door ajar, and he's able to go directly to the bottom. Smith overdrives it through the middle of turn 1 and 2. He's going to keep it off the outside wall, but to the expense of second place.
And he's going to try and hang there around the outside. Can't do it. Lance Hill moves his way into second. We're going to see if he can try and get back to the front of the lead. We saw him get up there earlier on an off strategy, but can he get up there on his own merit to try and contend for this win? You see a little bit loose there off of turn 4, but nothing crazy. We're going to have 14 to go now as they cross the line to 13. Can Lance Hill catch up to him, or will we have another yellow?
Lance Hill has yet to have full control of the race lead. He's got slivers of it, but he's never been able to really get that first position up, and he still has a lot of fighting to do to protect second as they get very close to 26 and the 3. Logan Joyner, they continue to try and pounce as the 34 got way loose out of shape at the exit of 2. It's side by side between the 3 and the 26, but the gap is open to about half a second between Rowell and everybody behind him.
And Colin Forster's trying to continue moving his way up, Kenneth. He has worked his way up to the 7th position. A top 5 is still in the books for him. I'm not sure if he's going to have a chance at the win unless he tries some different strategy or if we get a rash of yellows. But a solid recovery after basically being outside the top 20 about 10 laps ago for the driver this 99.
He's already +4 to the restart. He was 11 the last time we went green a couple of laps ago. He's already up to P7, trying to work on the 45 of Jacob Denson, the driver who has gotten a couple wins to his belt in the Cup Series, has yet to find one in the ARCA Series as he goes way blocking to the inside. Carl Edwards to Jimmy Johnson into turn 1. He's going to be able to make it stick, but just does not have enough power to get by everybody else in front of him. Meanwhile, Hill is clear for second. Smith continues to hold on for third as Forster goes way loose, and around he goes and hard into the inside wall. Does the caution get waived? The answer seems to be no with 10 laps to go.
They're going to keep it green right now. Forster trying to safely rejoin. Is going to start turning it back around. You see a low exit there for Rowell. He's taking it nice and careful around this racetrack, trying to see if he can complete these laps. That last time by, he was quicker by half a tenth over the 34. As you see the 99 now cruising on the racetrack. Will he decide to come down pit road and take repairs? Doesn't seem like it. But right now you see a battle back there for, it looks like, the 5th position. They're trying to get into the top 5 as the top 2 have disappeared. But I will say the 34 has made some good inroads this lap, Kenneth. It looks like he may be about half a second behind now.
And last time by, he wasn't too slow either. It was about 0.05 of a second. That last time as a couple of cars,
cars on the apron
towards the inside. Maybe Lucy's drivers went as Joe Sanchez tried to peek 3 wide with AJ Green underneath him for position. This is just outside of the top 5. Saw Logan Joyner get way out of shape. And now pretty much third on back is for the taking. Is Smith able to hold on? But Charlie Harcum struggling behind. It's fourth on back that has the biggest issues.
As the battle for the lead is continuing to tighten up, Kenneth, they're battling for third right now. They're trying to battle for the lead. You see the 34 still holding that 3 or 4 tenth gap to your race leader, kind of stalking him. As we have a crash off of turn 4, the caution's out.
And it's Jesse Prees, 0-0 around, facing the bottom of the banking in turn, I believe that's turn 4, to the entrance of pit road. It's Jesse Prees. Spun around, involved. He currently sits.
There was a separate incident, Kenneth. We had a car flipping on the front straight. Was Jacob Smith, just as the caution had come out, he comes up right in front of Harcum and he goes flipping across the front straightaway.
Also, 2 incidents here. Jesse Prees near the rear, Jacob Smith near the front. He was third before the caution came out. We'll try to analyze each and every incident. We'll start with the driver who was in third at the time of yellow.
This happened under caution.
The 26 of Smith, that's Harcum, who was slowly tailing behind him. Smith gets loose. This is when the caution comes out, but by the contact happens, it's too late. That's a dramatic crash. Devastating for the 26. The bumper comes off. The car is all torn up. I don't believe anybody else hits him here as he returns to the racetrack. But that is a big blow to the driver of the 26 who was doing well all night long. We talked about him struggling to find maybe some stable runs to the top 3 and for the race lead. This may do it for him.
Look at, we're gonna have to take a look on board the 55 of Joe Sanchez on this one. Look at that violent hit. Sanchez right here is gonna thread the needle between himself and that inside wall and just gets through without making any contact. So good job by Joe Sanchez keeping his race alive. See right here, he's battling AJ Green and doesn't even think that that's going to be a caution in front of him because the yellow's behind him. Then right here, boom, car goes flying and he's just trying to commit, and he squeezes through that gap.
He gets by Charlie Harcum as well. And you could see it off of especially Joe Sanchez's look. We'll take a look off turn 4. Watch this as they're coming off the 4th corner. There's a light to the right on the fence, right about there. You'll see it over to AJ Green, and this is when it comes out, right as he's about to cross it right there. Yellow flag comes out, but again, these drivers are trying to slow down. And there you see Smith already getting turned to the outside safety barrier. Another look at that quick escape by the SimLab Housingveld machine. And we'll try to take a look now further back as to what happened with Jesse Prees. Whether that was the cause of the caution. It was indeed the cause of caution. So this was before any of this happened between some of the drivers up at the front of the field. Try to take a look with the number 00 of Jesse Prees, and we'll see what happened to him. And I think Francisco just contact here with Ken MacArthur off turn 4. They were battling for position, and MacArthur just got into him.
He clips the apron and comes up a little bit into the path of 97, it seems, trying to be aggressive, going for that position. And clipping that apron at Homestead is a lot worse than what you may think. You can really slide up the racetrack by just barely clipping that apron.
So the caution will come out again. The drivers have not hit pit road yet, so it's going to be an interesting decision as to whether drivers will come down for service or whether this is going to be the final call to end this race with about 5 laps to go. Are you going to risk taking the fresh tires at this point, losing some track position, but could have some high gains later in, or are you just looking to stay out here for track position and aim to win this race? Call on pit road seems to be nobody.
This is, I believe, live feed. They're coming to the 1 to green now, Kenneth. The pit stops have been made. As you can see, Lance Hill, Joe Sanchez, all of them are way further back. Jake Roel did stay out as well with some other drivers that were a little bit further down the order. So there is a buffer between the driver of the 19 and the rest of the drivers he was battling for the win against. We'll have to see if anybody here can take advantage of the situation presented to them as far as track position, or if tires can find their way to the front. I don't think they'll have enough time if this goes green the rest of the way, but I think these guys on tires are actually betting on cautions, but they do want to maximize green flag usage. So if they want a yellow to come out, which they probably do, they're hoping it comes out with 2 to go.
Looking at Lance Hill in the 34. The reason why we're looking at him is because he's the first car that pitted the last time by. Top 6 did not go down pit road, so your leader Jake Roel was not coming out of pit road in the lead. He was staying out of the racetrack to keep his race lead right now intact, as Lance Hill and everybody else behind him decided to take 4 fresh tires to go with 5 laps to go. It's the top 6 that stay out. Does this call pay off for one of the drivers that's been one of the more dominant ones after Brian M. Smith's departure from this race? So it'll be 4 laps to go this time from Homestead to Miami Speedway. It's Roel and Jacob Denson. Pace cars off. We're back under green.
And you can see these guys are going to be struggling to get up to speed with these tires. Lance Hill does not want to get boxed in behind into turn 1. We see Schaefer making the move to the inside of Denson. And he's going to try and see if he can take that second spot. Denson a little bit sideways, but they're going to be side by side for that position. You see Lance Hill making a 3-wide move. He's able to get by. He's actually still side by side with someone. We have a wreck in the back. I believe that's Colin Forrester around, but we stay green. Looks like Lance Hill, it is Colin Forrester. Lance Hill trying to continue to make some ground, but look at this big lead that Jake Roel has already built on the first lap of this restart. We have a car all the way up against the wall. The tires are not finding their way to the immediate front of the field, but they are making a dent towards those a little bit further back. You see Hill has actually lost positions there to Cody Kinsey, as they've been trying to battle each other here. So this is actually allowing, as Hill sideways through 1, major contact with Ken MacArthur, cautions out, we're going into overtime.
Hill loses the car at the exit of turn 2. A slam by MacArthur sends us into another yellow flag, and we will go to green-white checkered territory. It was not the start that Hill was looking for on the freshest tires in the field. Could not cut his way through traffic, and as he was running the middle of the racetrack in the first 2 corners, just lost control of his Menards Mellow Yellow Impala SS. Take a look at the replay. This is working underneath Logan Joyner. No issues here off turn 4, but it's turn 1 that provides the biggest issue for Lance Hill as he was trying to continue to carve through the field.
They got caught up in battling each other here, these guys on the tires. They weren't really able to start passing these other guys. And you see right there, just transitions with the right sides on that seam, and that is not what you want to do. And Ken MacArthur has been very unlucky avoiding these incidents. He's just minding his own business, and all of a sudden the car's around in front of him and has no time to react. He just didn't even see it happening.
See the extended hand car with 97. He's had a rough night already. He did burn up the fast period tonight, so his race probably could be over indefinitely. About 3 laps to go as we move into green-white checkered territory. There you see the field combined. MacArthur is stuck pretty much on pit road, obviously, with no way to get out, and he is going to leave the race. So Ken MacArthur going to pretty much DNF at the end of tonight's coverage from Homestead. He's going to end up 23rd, but I figure that Curtis Kelly and a couple other drivers who stay out on track are going to take over position, and MacArthur will finish further deep in this field. So now we end up with 2 laps to go and green-white checkered territory. It's Roel at the front of the field. We had our discussion, Francisco, for a brief moment about the old tires versus the new tires on the most recent call. Now, does the call stand for these guys?
That puts Cody Kinsey's now the effective leader of those that are on new tires. He restarts 5th, so there's less of a buffer that exists there. If Kinsey can make a move going into turn 1 and get himself up to 3rd at the very least, that should put him in a pretty decent spot. And if a yellow comes out once he's up in that 2nd row, then he definitely feels a lot better of it. It's down to an exact science. It's just a matter of, does the cautions play in his favor? Does the restart go in his favor? Because if this 29 gets out there, as far as we saw him get on this previous restart, then no amount of tires is going to catch that gap in a lap and a half. So we'll have to see if Kinsey can make this work, given the position that he is dealt, or if this Kevin Harvick machine can hold on and take his first win of the season. When it's been a hectic race here tonight, Kenneth. A lot of cautions here. We've had some good racing when we've seen it. It makes me really excited going into tomorrow night.
It's going to be a wild one tomorrow night. And speaking of tomorrow night, more coverage from Homestead at Miami Speedway will come your way Wednesday, September 22nd. Tomorrow, basically Wednesday, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, where the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series will take to South Florida. And this very track right here, Homestead Miami Speedway, the coverage again will begin at 9:10, but you'll find it over on the Max Speed TV YouTube channel as opposed to the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel this time by, although you're going to see the same booth, but half of them. One's going to be in the booth, one's going to be on the racetrack. Francisco will be our in-race supporter, and will be, of course, a race car driver on the track fighting for the win at the home track here from Homestead. See if we can compete against 4 Wide's best tomorrow night on Wednesday. But next week, we continue 4 Wide Racing ARCA action, and it will be from the Irish Hills, the Michigan International Speedway. We'll have our coverage next Tuesday, September 28th. Our coverage will begin at 9:10 p.m. Eastern right here on the KBueno Racing Network. It's going to be a thriller over at that big 2-mile venue over in Brooklyn, Michigan for 100 laps with these cars. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun after what we saw at Auto Club to start the season earlier in July this year. So more to come for 4 Wide Racing action. Definitely not going to want to miss it here on the KBueno Racing Network or the Max Speed TV YouTube channels, respectively. As for the race right now on the KBueno Racing Network for the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series, round 9 going to come to a conclusion in green-white checkered territory. We're going to have a couple of attempts to get this done. If the leader gets to the white flag before we have any wrecks to constitute us under yellow, that means we'll race back to the start-finish line. If we do get a yellow before the leader crosses the line for the white flag, that means we'll double them up and restart it all over again. We have a handful of attempts to do it, so there is multiple chances for this to end under green, although if we burn up all of our attempts, then the field will end under yellow. Whoever was in first will have himself frozen as first and will be the race winner here tonight from South Florida. Prayers up, though, that Jake Ruel can try to hold this on in his cockpit to win tonight's race. Everybody else, though, looking to take it away with 2 laps to go. Pace car going to make its way off for what might be the final time tonight. Ruel, Denton, your first row. Ruel off to an early start. We're green with 2 laps to go. Could this be the final restart?
That's caught off Cody Kinsey there. He had trouble getting going on the restart. That now puts the leader of the new tires on joiners. We have a caution immediately as he gets a great start there, but that's going to get undone. It's a big pileup in turn 1.
It's a big crash involving Lance Hill. You saw Craig Lautenschlager, one of the lap cars, in it as well, facing the outside wall. It was slow when Ricky Rosner, but ultimately it's Lance Hill that gets the worst end of it. And the driver who spun from the top 5 just a couple laps ago will now have to suffer with seemingly a modified here for burning up his fast repair earlier tonight. We'll take a look at how this all unfolded. It's a large wreck, Francisco, that started in turn 1. Watch the 43 go up in the outside wall, but it actually began with Charlie Hartcomb. There a big checkup or spun tires that caused this one.
You see right there, and that actually might give the 34 a little bit of a penalty because he passed on the inside before the start-finish line. But massive pile up there in turn 1, and it happened in front of Hill. We'll see if we can get a different look at what exactly happened. You mentioned Hartcomb there. We'll get a look from above. You see the restart pretty normal. It looks the 26 tries to get to the outside of Michael Woolley and gets to the right rear of him. And we see Bishop there involved in a crash trying to avoid the crash. So we'll have to see what happened there with Bishop as well. Looks like Pete Bruni comes across the track right into Bishop, and Gillis involved as well. And he hits that same wall that we saw Carl Edwards hit, that we quite literally saw Carl Edwards hit.
Look at this right here, almost 90 degrees facing the asphalt. Tyler Murray, as he got slammed by Hill, trying to slow down for this incident. Looked like he was going to be clear, but Hill just comes in barreling and hits hard at the inside wall along with a 13. And it's about a 5-car pileup here into turn 1. There you see Rosner. I think it was a blessing in disguise for Ricky Rosner because he had struck the wall right before the restart happened and stayed up there just to make sure he wouldn't get into anybody else. Slowed down just in enough time via that hit to the outside wall. Was able to react in enough time and get away from this incident, or rather scot-free. The field will again remain under pacing conditions, and by this time the calls down pit road are probably going to be non-existent. If you're in this spot right now for the race, this is where you're going to be when we get to this next restart. But ultimately it continues to throw a lot of drivers off, and let's talk about Jake Ruel on that restart. He threw a lot of drivers off on that restart, and that could have been a pivotal one if we'd stayed green, because you had mentioned Cody Kinsey did not get the run that he wanted back through the top 5 and actually lost a little bit of ground, as opposed to that as one of the drivers on the freshest tires in the field.
And now what that does is also it puts Lucas Joyner now in that 5th position. So he's same tires will be on the same position on this restart. They're not on that 2nd row, which is what that 19 wants. He doesn't want tires being on that 2nd row. That'll be very crucial if that would have happened. But if this can time the restart as good as he can to try and see if he can get by some of those cars in front of him, that'll put him in a pretty good spot. I don't know if he'll have enough time to catch up to the leader, but a podium is still very well in the realm of possibility for Joyner here if he can time this restart good enough, because we do only have one more attempt in overtime after this. Otherwise, the race will end under caution if we get another yellow flag, and that plays right into the hands of the 19. So it has really worked out for Jake Rowe right now, and it is his race to lose at this point, you could say.
Ravel has been in control for at least the final segment of this race after the main incident between some of the biggest leaders in tonight's field, including Brian M. Smith, Jacob Smith, Logan Joyner. A lot of those heavy hitters got into trouble. They gave way for Jake Ravel, who picked up speed in the last segment, was able to take the lead away, and has since dominated the last segment, and now just trying to hold on in the final laps to win, although the yellows just keep impeding his way between himself and a checkered flag here tonight from Homestead. It'll be his first win if he can get it. Remember, all the drivers around him also looking for their first win in the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series this season. Jacob Denson, a stellar rookie driver, had a good run at Darlington earlier this season. Eric Schaefer in the 22, Michael Newbrough to 4th. Talked about Logan Joyner as a heavy hitter in tonight's race. He's up to 5th. We talk about guys like Cody Kinsey, Tony Kivet. And the only driver you'll find that has a win in the ARCA Series this season, you'll have to look back to P8. You'll find the 55 of Joe Sanchez, who's been kind of bouncing around the top 10 for most of the night, has yet to really find himself clear to the top 3. But it's going to be a miracle here with 2 laps to go if he can get it done, although anything can happen here from Homestead. It'll be Roel, Denson, your first row, Schaefer, Newbrough to your top 4, Logan Joyner and Tony Kivet to P6. Behind them, we'll find Cody Kinsey and Joe Sanchez to P8. And then all the way back to the top 10, it is AJ Green and Nicholas Gowan in the 31. We'll see if we get another early start out of the race leader, Jake Ravel, who chooses the inside this time by. Pace car going to make its way down. Our second attempt at a green-white checkered is green.
And another good start for him. And they're just unable to detect the fact that he's going that early, and that's allowing him to get these monster starts. They're going to be side by side for the second position. Schaefer trying to see if he can get past the 45. It looks like he has a good run through turn 1 to move him up to that second position, but all clear up front.
And another caution on the racetrack as there's a crash behind them. And I believe multiple cars involved once more. The yellow flag gets displayed again. Will pretty much slow us down once more from reaching our checkered flag. We're going to try to find who it might have been that got collected in this. I can't quite see. Maybe the driver already had saved it, but we'll try to take a look and see if there was some mayhem at the front of the field or the rear of the field. Right on board Randy Gillis. This could be a good shot. Actually, it was right there. AJ Green got sideways at the entrance of the corner. Lost a lot of positions. No damage. Actually, never mind. Damage to the outside wall. He'll go. Thought it was the half spin, but it was the overcorrection that sent him up the banking and barely in the outside wall to bring us under yellow again.
And crucially, Kenneth, this is the last caution. This is the last restart we'll have. If we do get a yellow flag incident once more, that will mark the end of this race, and the leader of the race at the time of this yellow will be handed the win. So all this 19 has to do here, Kenneth, is get a solid launch, and if a yellow flag comes out, he's got the race win. But if he gets to the white flag, the race is official. He just has to complete 1 lap in front of the others, and he will come away with a race win. In other words, it is very difficult right now with this current view of how the situation is playing out for anyone to try and beat him, because those that are around him immediately are on the same tires as him, but they've been struggling on restarts, and those on better tires don't have the track position to make it work. We see Joyner back there. I'm not sure if he's in 4th or in 5th. He is side by side with the Michael Newbrough machine, but I do believe that Joyner is actually in the 4th position, so he will line up on the outside of the second row, so it does put him up in front by 1 row. We'll see what kind of difference that does make I do think it'll put him in contention for that podium, though.
And we've seen the field sort of shake up just a little bit, and it's by increments of one position either gained or lost here, especially given the fact that we've had yellows so early in these green-white checkered restarts. If you're any of these guys like Joyner, if you're guys like Newbraw, if you're Sanchez per se, how are you playing this right now on green-white checkered restarts where you're trying to get positions, but yellows just continue to halt your progress?
I think you have to just take what you can get, because with the cautions that can continue coming out, you don't know when they're going to arrive, when it's going to happen. So you have to take every position anytime you can at this point, because you don't know if that's going to be where you finish, because you don't know if the caution's going to come out and that'll end up being the race. You don't want to have any regrets and not having made a move that you felt like you could have made and it possibly could have worked out. We see the field double file, but obviously the lights are still on the pace car, so we are not taking the 1 to green yet, so the pace car will not leave the racetrack this time by. It looks like everyone's just very antsy and wants to get going here.
I think with the amount of yellows that we've had tonight, you want to get this race over with. You want to finish it. You want to get it over with. And I think a lot of drivers are feeling that at Myrtle Beach last week when we had the 27 yellows before we could declare a winner. It was a last lap thriller. Nonetheless, we can't discredit from what was a great finish for Myrtle Beach, but the entire race, a lot of contact, a lot of carnage, a lot of yellows, and you could tell there were some impatience from some drivers that were just waiting to get this already over with, and they were willing to do anything and everything possible to help get this race finished. I think here at Homestead, you're seeing a lot of it. Drivers are already waiting to go green flag racing. Earlier in this race, you would see everybody single file. They're saying, okay, there's still a long race ahead of us, but now with about 3 laps to go, as I believe we'll get 1 to green this time by, drivers are already saying, okay, I'm ready, let's go. If there was no pace car, I would be going green right now.
Yeah, and this is the last restart that we will have no matter what, so it is purely up to this 19 of Jake Roel to get the restart done as good as he's been able to do it the last 3 or 4 times to try and win himself a race.
So it's again front row consisting of Jake Roel, Eric Schaefer, and then Jacob Denson, Logan Joyner to your row 2. It's Michael Newbraw, Joe Sanchez, your row 3, Tony Kivitt, Nicholas Cowan, your row 4. A couple of these drivers have gained some positions ever since the last couple of restarts. And as Francisco mentioned, this is our final attempt at green-white checkered. So if we don't get to the checkered flag under green, race will end under yellow, and whoever's in the race lead at the time of yellow will be the race winner, whether it's Jake Roel, whether it's Eric Schaefer, or whether it's anybody else in this field. We're waiting for a 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series victory from Homestead, Miami. We'll double them up, of course, already. The lights are off of the pace car. It's all to when the pace car is going to jump down pit road. And as for the 29 of Jake Roel, it's all about whether he's going to be ready to take the green flag now or later. Pace car's off. It's another early jump for Jake Roel. We're back under green, but it's a semi-equal start. Schaefer able to hold the outside.
I think Schaefer anticipated it, so he is actually decently close. The question is, can he do something about it? You see right there, Roel already trying to open up a gap. Slides up just a little bit, and we have a caution. The race is over. Jake Roel is going to win.
Caution out on the speedway. Everybody trying to scramble through, but this race is official. Jake Roel will be your winner from Homestead, Miami. And he will cross the line to continue under the yellow flag, catch the pace car coming to the white, and Jake Roel will take his first 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series victory from Homestead. There he takes the white flag. He'll be behind the pace car, but indeed, it is Jake Roel with his first win. Eric Schaefer to second. Tony Kivitt able to survive the last lap for third. We tried all 3 attempts. Francisco, this is the first time we've seen it end fully under yellow.
Yep, it took every attempt, and even then, that wasn't enough. So, good. Congratulations to Jake Roel on a fantastic drive. He was able to step up once Brian M. Smith ran into trouble. He had been fast all night till that point, but he was able to take up the mantle when it mattered most, and able to pick up his first win, return to the series. So a comfortable way to return. He's able to pick up the win. I know he'll be ecstatic about that one. And as the field catches up to the pace car, across the line he comes to pick up that checkered flag and the win at the Homestead Miami Speedway. He'll be excited to celebrate in victory lane and with a vote.
Ruel finally able to celebrate. He's going to be able to break away from the pace car, break away from the chains. That was yellow flag action. He's going to be able to celebrate tonight from Miami. I talked about him a little bit earlier in the 4-wide Cup Series race last season at Chicagoland. Remember, he was one of the most dominant drivers at that 1.5-mile circuit. And because he had to leave due to some personal reasons, obviously had a commitment that he had to make, left the race around halfway and gave the win away to Brad Herman. But Jake Ruel, a 1.5-mile win, finally comes to him in the series. And it will come here at Homestead at Miami Speedway. Your winner tonight is Jake Ruel as he burned it down in front of the virtual fans.
And he gets to celebrate in proper this time. You see, very ecstatic to win in South Florida. Such a big racetrack to win at. You don't think of Homestead as a crown jewel race, but it is such a cool racetrack to get a win on. It's a unique racetrack. It's one that has a lot of history attached to it, but a lot of ecstatic emotions you can imagine underneath that the hood of underneath that race car and how he's going to be feeling.
So Ruel continues to celebrate, continues to burn it down. We'll take a look at your full field race results, see exactly where everybody finished from the virtual Homestead of Miami Speedway. It's Jake Ruel, your winner for the first time this season. The 19 going to victory lane. Eric Schaefer with a nice job to hold on for second. Tony Kibbett with a massive jump to third on the final restart. Joe Sanchez will occupy fourth with Michael Newbraw holding on for the top 5. It was a hit in the wall earlier tonight for Cody Kinsey. He survives back with a fast repair for P6. Nicholas Gowan with early troubles ends up in 7th. Jesse Prees figures himself in 8th at the end of tonight's action. Colin Forster able to rebound back to 9th after a pit road mistake earlier in this race. AJ Green with a spin to set us under our final attempt will end up in the top 10.
And as we look through the rest of the results here, these results, of course, unofficial with that caution being out when it came out. The admins will go through it to determine the correct positions. But as of right now, we will continue through our results with Michael Woolley being in the 11th position, Lance Hill finishing in the 12th position. And as we move down to the 13th position, it is going to be Curtis Kelly, followed by CJ Munier. Tyler Murray ends up in the 15th position. Logan Joyner, he was close there. He was in 3rd place on that last restart. He'd moved up there but got loose, and that's what caused the caution. He finishes 16th. Charlie Hartcomb finishes in the 17th position with Christopher Bishop down in 18th. Jacob Denson had a chance to win this race, finishes in the 19th position. Pete Bruni finishes on the lead lap but in the 20th position. And to the rest of the field, we will have in the 21st position Brandon T. Banks, the last car on the lead lap. Brandon Gillis finishes 1 lap down in 22nd, followed by Jacob Smith, who was in contention for the race win until that massive flip across the front straightaway. And Ricky Rosner finishes in the 24th position. Ken MacArthur, who we saw have hard contact, finishes in the 25th position. Craig Longslugger did not have a good night. He finishes 26th. Joby Ray finishes in 27th after hard hit to the outside wall. And Brian M. Smith getting DQ'd means he gets in the 28th position, last of everybody here today.
Those are your unofficial results here from Homestead at Miami Speedway. Getting word from race control that top 3 has shifted, and we will have our further order. Obviously, the winner, Jake Ruel, will be considered officially the race winner tonight. He fairly and squarely went across the start-finish line. Eric Schaefer is considered in P2, but from words from the officials, official results will figure having Jacob Denson in the 45 as the P3 runner, so it won't be Tony Kibbett at the end of tonight's race. It will be the driver of the 45 that gets the option for interview here in the top 3. We'll get points for that as well once we get ourselves over to Michigan in next week's time. But before we do that, we'll head to talk with our race winner, Jake Ruel, for the first time this season. The 29 machine able to get it done in the final laps. And here with Jake Ruel in victory lane, your first win here in the 4Y Racing ARCA Series in its inaugural campaign. I want to walk through the final laps because this is the first time we've seen a race end properly under yellow with green-white checkered attempts. Walk us through how that was for you behind the cockpit.
Yeah, it was a long race. It started off pretty well. Qualified middle of the pack, kind of messed up on the Q lap, but Got involved into a little accident, had a tow, so then I was 2 laps down. Got the lucky dog twice, then back onto the lead lap, and just drove my way back up front. Had the pace all night. Just had to be patient with it. So can't really complain about that, but it was a good race. Kind of wish it would have ended under green, but I mean, a win's a win. You'll take them anyway. You can ask anyone.
Well, I know certainly that ending is probably not what you wanted to see, pacing all the way to the checkered flag. You wanted to race all the way back to the checkered flag here from Homestead. But let's give a walk back through earlier in this race. You were having a nice fight earlier on with guys like Brian M. Smith, with Lance Hill, with Jacob or Lake. Wow, I can't say it. Joyner in the 3 machine. I couldn't have a better battle there, I think, at the front of the field because of the way you guys were running 3 wide, almost 4 wide. How aggressive was that, trying to handle a very loose race car at a track that demands a lot out of you naturally?
Yeah, I mean, this place in the ARCA car with this setup is absolutely amazing. It's probably the best car track combination I've raced in a long time on iRacing. So it's a ton of fun when you can go wheel to wheel with guys like you named off there, and be able to go 2, 3, maybe even 4 wide, and not have to worry about it. It's the nice thing about a track like Homestead Miami Speedway, with multiple grooves to run. So it was fun, and honestly, I mean, a lot of guys were running up by the wall, kind of running a lane off of it in the middle, but I mean, all race long, I just stuck it on that white line, and kind of like Happy Harvick would do at Atlanta, and it was the winning way. So that's just how it happens, I guess, sometimes.
You know what? I think that's fitting. If you're running all the way to the bottom, you got to have the Kevin Harvick paint scheme. You're doing the Harvick way, you got to rep Kevin Harvick colors. Nonetheless, you're a winner here tonight from Homestead, but this is the first time we see you in a while from 4-wide racing competition. Last time we saw you was in Cup Series action not too long ago. Do we expect more ARCA starts further down the road, or could there be something else in the works for you in this series?
Yeah, I've just been, really busy. Like you said, I think the last time I raced was the championship race for the Cup Series at Charlotte, which I won. So last 2 starts, 2 wins. So maybe I just need to be showing up. I mean, ARCA car is a ton of fun. So, I don't really have anything else going on Tuesday nights. I know they're in the middle of the season, but so I don't know what the points are like or how. Like, I don't even know what number race this was. But I mean, if it's like this, it was good racing until obviously the end when the yellow kind of came out. I think it was like 10 or 12 laps to go, and some people stayed out, some people pit, and at that point, it's just going to turn into a wreck fest. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So, but yeah, definitely think I'll be coming back for some ARCA racing. Obviously, you guys do a great job up in the booth, and Tyler Murray and all the admins, everything like that for this league. So, but yeah, I mean, 2 for 2 in the last 2 ones, so can't complain with that. Got to thank all my teammates back at Roel Motorsports, Jacob Smith, Logan Joyner, Brian M. Smith, Jovi Ray, and Nick Goen. It was the what is that? 6 of us, 5 of us. So it was a good night out here tonight.
It was a good night for you. You end up taking your first win in the inaugural 4-wide racing ARCA series, and hopefully if the schedule opens up, we can see you in the Irish Hills next week from Michigan. We thank you so much, Jake, for taking the time to talk with us in the booth. We certainly appreciate the support for coverage of 4-wide racing action, and hopefully we either see you tomorrow for Cup Series action or maybe next week for ARCA, whatever it may be. Hope to see you out next time soon for 4-wide racing, and congratulations on this win from Homestead.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I got to rep, it's my home track kind of, this and MIS. So if ARCA's there next week, I'll definitely have to show up, try to go for the sweep of the hometown track. So
there's Jake Roel, your winner here tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway. Does it under yellow, but led a significant amount of laps to get there. And the driver who holds the Happy Harvick scheme, able to be happy in victory lane, probably with a contender vote somewhere if we can get it virtually nonetheless. We'll talk to the driver who ends up in P2 at the end. It's a great run for the 22 of Eric Schaefer, who holds on in the final a handful of laps to get that P2 finish, and he is currently trackside with our very own Francisco Baquea.
Well, Eric, it was an interesting race out here tonight. We had a lot of cautions, very reminiscent to about a week ago, and we saw a lot of big wrecks, a lot of decisions with pitting when not to pit. How did you make those decisions to be able to come away with a second place?
Uh, ability to stay out of everybody's wreck, man. I don't know. I just was hanging out in the back for a little bit and got up towards the middle of the pack a couple times and up towards the front, just feeling things out, seeing how it was going to go. And I don't know, man. There was a lot of attrition out there tonight. Like we normally, me and my team, drinking bros and the rowdy guys, man, we'll sit there and we'll set up a practice before and we'll get in there and practice and stuff. And we never did that today. So all of us are kind of came into this blind tonight. So it was fun, man. It was a lot of attrition, a lot of incidents going on. That was a lot of people driving over their head and everything else, but it was a good time.
Yeah, we saw that there was a lot of incidents here tonight. And going into this race, was that something you were expecting?
No, not at all. Because Homestead, as wide as Homestead is, man, you should be able to run 100 laps here at green flag, no problem.
Yeah, I think us in the booth were also surprised to see just how much attrition was out there on the racetrack. But it was a solid performance from you. You were able to come up with a second place finish, a good result for you finally this season, Eric. What did it take for you, and who helped you put together this sort of effort?
Yeah, man, it finally came together for a good finish. But I just got to give a shout out to all the Drinking Bros guys and the Rowdy guys, man. It's just like we in our Discord down there, we had like 10 or 11 people just hanging out, just racing together, man. That's all we ever do is just get in there and hang out, race together, and it's like one big team we got. We all help each other out and hit strategy and on the track help each other out and everything. It's a big team we got going on, but it's just nice to be able to finally get a good run here and stuff like this in this division. But I really like Homestead, man. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night.
I'm also looking forward to tomorrow night, Eric. I'll be seeing you out there on the racetrack for a change of pace, so I can't wait to maybe have a battle or two with you. And you know, it being on our home turf, I should say, I'll be glad to invite you to any of the local scenes here to celebrate that P2 finish of yours. Good luck.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man.
As Eric Schaefer, who comes home from Homestead, Miami, in P2. We'll talk to the driver who officially gets P3 at the end of tonight's race. It will be the 45 of Jacob Denson. Saw him in 19th at the end of our unofficial results, but due to officials calling it near the end, Jacob Denson will be awarded a third place finish and the last step of the podium here at the end of tonight's race, which will give him, I believe, a second top three in the last three races after what was a great run at Darlington earlier this year. And we'll talk to pit road here with the driver of the 45. Jacob, this race, I think from start to finish was all about attrition. We can kind of compare it to Myrtle Beach last week, although we were at a track way bigger this time. Walk us through how that was for you, because I know you were caught up in mostly the hornet's nest throughout this entire race between 5th and 10th, all those positions in the mix. I can imagine it must have been wild there with all these yellows coming out.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that it was as rough as it was. I was expecting some long green flag runs. I think, like you said, it's just a war of attrition, just trying to hang around to the end. We kept it straight as best we could. Had a couple incidents, but were able to recover from it. And to come out third place, I'm pretty proud of the guys. Pretty proud of where we finished.
And I think this race came down to a rather unorthodox finish for white racing competition. We're used to seeing green-white checkers end up in a green finish, and probably usually seeing green racing all the way to the very end, but this one ended under yellow. And obviously from the way that things finished and the way the unofficial results turned out, it was not a good final lap for you. A lot of things are going on at the wrong time. Walk us through what was happening there between your cockpit from the drop of the green flag on that final restart to the checkered flag of this race.
Well, I was trying to get up on the wheel because I thought if I could get a good restart, I could get to the inside of the 22. But I didn't get a good jump, and the 3 actually got a better jump on me. But when he went into turn 1, I guess he overdrove it and lost it, which cleared me. And then coming down the backstretch, the caution come out, so I backed out of it. And a couple of guys went by me. I guess they were still battling for position. And the next thing you know, somebody comes and just kind of sideswipes me. And I wasn't going to be able to get back around, but thankfully the guys figured out what was going on and gave me credit for the third place finish.
Well, the officials give you your third place finish, and I believe this is your second a third top 3 finish after Darlington a couple weeks back, which I think was one of your best races this season. So probably a lot of optimism, some possible momentum to be carried over into the Irish Hills next week. But before we let you go, Jacob, on this third place finish here tonight from Homestead, is there anybody you just like to give a shout out to? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just like to give the love to from tonight?
Absolutely. BNH Racing. I don't know if you guys follow them on Twitch. They got a Twitch channel, BNH Racing, BNHIT, Feltz Media. Like to give another shout out to Little Miami Brewing, which is a company up in Cincinnati, Ohio. They've given us a lot of support over the past couple of years, and looking forward to next week.
Well, I think nonetheless, everybody can tune in for B&H Racing. We'll be sure to follow. I think a lot of people watching this stream will probably be watching and following as well. But thank you so much, Jacob, for taking the time to talk with us up here in the booth on this third place finish. We give you a congratulations on the finish and wishing you the best of luck at Michigan next week.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Jacob Denson, your official third place finish here from Homestead Miami Speedway. That would do it for the driver interview segment of tonight's race. And Francisco, wow, this race really changed our perspective of racing at Homestead Miami Speedway. We're expecting, I think, like the drivers were long green flag runs, a lot of maybe pitch strategy, a lot of things down that line, but it turned into a lot of cautions, a lot of restarts being pivotal, some pit calls being pivotal, tires being pivotal, so many factors that changed the perplexion of this race that probably nobody anticipated was going to happen.
We didn't anticipate this was going to happen either, Kenneth. This threw everyone for a loop. Normally, as we previously discussed, Homestead is the kind of track, you heard one of the drivers say there, that you can go 100 or so laps, green flag, and blink an eye. And that was not the case here tonight. We saw a lot of people struggling for grip, really. And I'm just surprised that that's the sort of thing that happened here. And normally, Homestead is a track where drivers are very active on and can have a pretty good hand around. And I'm surprised, and I keep saying that because I genuinely am very surprised that there was a lot of struggling out there. We ended up with a total of 17 cautions here tonight. That is nowhere near the amount that I would have probably anticipated before this race here today. And, you know, and you're hearing it with some of these drivers. They weren't expecting it. They weren't too fond of it. And they're really hoping for a different outcome next time out at the Michigan International Speedway next Tuesday at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock Eastern, same time as tonight. But, you know, before we move on to Michigan, we still stay here, down here in the South Florida region. We'll be going racing once again at this track here tomorrow. I'm still pumped. I can't wait to hop into the race car and see what it's like. I'm hoping that we do get that green flag race tomorrow for my sake, but I'm very excited to be able to bring in some reports throughout the race to have you guys check in on me as the race goes on. Hopefully it's not lap 1 where my race ends. Hopefully I can be there at the finish and be able to truly bring to detail just what it's like racing with these guys from that perspective, and hopefully get one done for the broadcast crew.
Well, we'll hope to see you there tomorrow. That is, though, still racing from Homestead Miami Speedway. Instead, we'll swap out the ARCA Series field for the Cup Series field, and we'll go Cup racing here from South Florida. The coverage will begin at 9:10 p.m. Eastern here live on the Max Speed TV YouTube channel. You won't find it here on the KBueno Racing Network. Our next broadcast will be next Tuesday, September 28th, where we'll kick things off once again for the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series as they touch the Irish Hills, Brooklyn, Michigan, and the Michigan International Speedway, the legacy version. So a very bumpy one that we'll be anticipating, and also a very fun race as well. So much more to look forward to, but as of tonight, here from Homestead Miami Speedway, it is Jake Ruel, your winner here tonight from round number 9 of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series, does it at the end of 134 laps. So for Tyler Murray, league owner, and everybody is a part of the race council that makes everything happen for the 4-Wide Racing League, and for all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer, and for my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacalhau, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long, good night from Homestead. It's an overnight stay tomorrow when we go Cup racing.